The Fresh and Fit podcast is probably the most popular, if not at the very least one of the most popular red pill podcasts of all time. They got extremely big a few years ago to the point where they were averaging 500,000 to 1 million views on the stream VODs alone. Then there were the clips where they were getting a ton of views. On their live shows, they were getting as many as 10, 15, 20, 30,000 live viewers watching their show. And now that is hardly the case. Their entire YouTube channel is demonetized. It's a completely dying channel. Their fans hate them, and they've been relegated to the annals of alt tech platforms like Rumble. So today we're going to go through their entire history with the help of another YouTuber called Don Ozzy, who made a very good video covering their rise and fall to analyze what happened in the first place, why they got popular, what went wrong, and if they deserve the fate that they are ultimately suffering from right now. There's a lot of cameos from a lot of different content creators out there in this video, notably Abba and Preach, also Kevin Samuels, a lot of different people from the sort of YouTube political commentary space that make cameos in this video, and also a lot of girls, a lot of women. They don't talk very much, but they are in the video, so enjoy. It seems like Fresh and Fit is done. Fresh and Fit, perhaps one of the greatest red pill podcasts on the internet. It seems like they have officially split up now. It's just Myron, just Fit. Fresh is now gone. Walter, perhaps the greatest content creator of all time, is now gone. It seems like he might be done with the podcast, or at least that was my impression, but it looks like he's still there in some of these clips. Wait, is it not done? What the fuck is this video then? Full timeline of the rise and fall of the Fresh and Fit podcast. I was under the impression that it was over. The Fresh was just gone, and apparently I'm completely wrong. Apparently I was completely wrong about that. So he's still literally there, so I got lied to. Okay, I got lied to. Whatever the case, we've got a video here, full timeline of the rise and fall of the Fresh and Fit podcast. Thought it'd be interesting to take a look at this, to see what's going on, to see what made the podcast fall apart, because I have noticed that Fresh and Fit has been on a, decent bit of declining viewership here. They're not getting horrible views. I mean, 66K views on a podcast live stream is not bad, but they used to be absolutely huge. I mean, they've got 1.5 million subscribers on this show, and they're certainly not pulling numbers like they used to.
At one point in time, Fresh and Fit was one of the top super chatted channels YouTube has ever seen, making the top 10 list at their peak. Now, well, they're a shell of their former selves. Hard to believe, but they were once the top men's focused podcast in the entire world. Now, not only has their money dried up, their influence, public respect, and self-respect along with it. But why? What caused this? Well, it's not any one thing. The laundry list of actions taken that could have been avoided, and even if not avoided fully, remedied quickly, that the Fresh and Fit team opted not to do. From their humble beginnings on smaller platforms, their sudden rise and brief reign as the kings of men's podcasts, all the way to the disgraceful yet predictable downfall. This is the full timeline of the rise and fall of the Fresh and Fit podcast. The Fresh and Fit podcast originally wasn't even called Fresh and Fit. Hell, originally it wasn't even two people. At first, it was just one person. That person being Myron, aka Amru Fuddle, the more well-known half of the duo, the one who does all the talking and really made Fresh and Fit what it is today. Originally, this podcast was called Weight and Dates, but the person who he hosted it with was not Fresh. It was another guy who we covered here on this channel, who I won't even touch on because I already have a video on this scumbag and I'm all done of it sharped out. But yes,
the way that I remember hearing about Fresh and Fit in the first place was from Adam 22's show, basically. They both went on and talked about sort of this must have been like 2021, maybe 2020 this happened. They went on and just promoted their show and talked about what they were doing, and the majority of what they were talking about was pretty milquetoast stuff. It was like, it's lift weights, lifting weights is good for you, making money is good. And I was like, okay, this seems pretty milquetoast. But then within like a year and a half, they were saying pretty crazy shit on their podcast. I would say that it's sort of a perfect combination of cringe in terms of how they interact with girls and how they view women as a whole. And I'm not trying to be some kind of male feminist here, but I will say that, it's very unfortunate to see the way that their entire worldview is basically like women are stupid. Women cannot do anything for themselves. They are essentially only to be used as fleshlights, and that's really basically it. And they don't see women as equals, as people. The annoying part about that is like, well, why would you not think that when you're only interacting with the most hedonistic, disgusting, gold-digging, dumb bitches of all time, right? There are women like this that exist out there. There are women that want to be permanent fleshlights, right? The club girls in Miami undoubtedly are the kind of girls that Fresh and Fit. Like, how could you not have that worldview if that's the only the women you're interacting with? But there are women that are not like that. There are women that exist that are not like that. Having to disclaim that you're not a male feminist is cringe as fuck. Okay. Sorry for making you cringe, I guess. But yeah, I've always found it very, very cringe. The reason I say that is because I don't want to be like the like Lewis McClung stereotype of like, oh, I actually understand women, because I don't want to pretend to be that guy. I do not. Okay, I do not. I'm not the Rizzler. But I also don't want to be the guy who's like going out of his way to just say that all women are fucking retarded at all times, and meaning it sincerely.
This is the person who gave Myron his first shine. In hindsight, knowing the character of the first person Myron publicly looked up to, it's not hard to see why and how FNF went down the path they went down. It started when he bought a consultation from Donovan Sharp.
So it started, man, I actually got a consultation with Donovan, and we were talking about, you know, shooting the stuff about fitness, game, everything like that.
Donovan eventually thought, hey, this guy is knowledgeable. Let me make a show with him called Weights and Dates.
Everything like that. I was like, hey, man, you're a pretty knowledgeable guy. Would you like to come on the show? And I was like, dude, it'd be an honor. And he had me on and we talked about fitness. We did a show.
All right, let's get right to it. My special guest this evening is none other than the fittest man I know, my man, Mr. Myron Gaines, who I had the pleasure.
Oh wait, Donovan Sharp. Is this the guy who ended up, he was like a red pill guy who was shitting on women, shitting on single moms, and then it turned out he was dating a single mom, right? I think he like kind of married one. This is the same guy. I didn't realize that's who that was. Yeah. Proof, Donovan Sharp married a used up single mom, and truth on why Kevin Samuels disowned him. Yeah, this is such a funny arc. This is such a fucking funny arc, dude. This is like a consistent thing with a lot of these people. Like the ones that are the most judgmental about stuff like this, the ones that are like so ardent about going after like all single mothers are dumb, they're useless, low value men, they end up being the biggest hypocrites. Yeah, Abbott and Priest did a video about it here.
If you don't know who Donovan Sharp is, he's considered a red pill guru, one of the leaders in the manosphere. He touts himself as somebody that young men should emulate in terms of how they should live their life. Well, we did a previous video in which it was exposed that he's been lying about a lot of his life, like much of these red pill people. Take a
Any man who marries a woman past the age of 23 years old, you're getting leftovers. But yeah, David, listen, man, I'm not trying to be mean-spirited, but you married a single mom. Like, post-wall women, they get married all the time, but the men they get married to are very low value. They're beta males. They're pushovers. They're not real men. They're not the men that arouse these women.
So credits where credits due. This man makes fun of other people's spouses and different things like that. Claims he would never date a single mom. Well, somebody pulled up his quote-unquote girlfriend's bankruptcy records, because those are public records that anyone has access to, and they found some interesting information.
Devin is one of just a few women I've dated, older women I've dated, who didn't have any kids when I met them. But again, they're the exceptions. Devin is my girlfriend. She is not my wife. We have never been married. She is not a single mother.
Listen to the cope, dude. Listen to the perpetual terminal cope of this fucking guy. And like, the thing is, like, it wouldn't have even been like a big deal if he wasn't the way that he is. Like, if he was just a normal dude who was dating a single mom, like nobody would bat an eye, nobody would give a fuck, right? Literally nobody. Like, he himself is probably in his like mid 30s, late 30s, something like that. He looks to be of that age. Like, you know, at that age, if you're not married and you're dating around, a lot of the women that you're dating might have kids. They might be further in life where they have, like, you know, a husband that they've divorced or something like that. Like, that's not a totally abnormal thing. Like, that's gonna happen. But he was so ardent and passionate about the fact that it was like a horrible thing to do, that you shouldn't be dating single moms. And it turns out that he was projecting literally all of it, literally fucking all of it. So this is, to be honest, this is so funny, because this early on we can see that one of the progenitors of the modern red pill movement was a massive hypocrite. The guy who inspired Fresh and Fit was a massive hypocrite.
This went so well that Donovan not only encouraged Myron to make his own show and podcast,
And then I'll never forget, Donovan was like, hey, man, you need to make a YouTube channel.
he also invited him back to be on The Six, which was a panel show that featured a lot of guys in the red pill. Kevin Samuels, most notably, and another person by the name of Solo TV 84, just to name a few. Keep that in your back pocket for later. They will be.
How was 23 the cutoff? These guys have this belief that every woman who is 23 years old is basically like a used up fleshlight that's just been absolutely, you know, they call it the cock carousel, which is pretty funny. They've gone around the cock carousel one too many times. So essentially that is why they believe that. They think that all women that are past a certain age are absolutely ran through, which is like just not true. Like, you just have to think that every single woman in the world is a complete and utter fucking prostitute, which is not the case. It's just the women that these guys hang around. The kind of girl that's attracted to these guys is probably a prostitute, to be honest.
Will be relevant. Anyway, Myron didn't find too much success in his own right at the time, even with the boost from Donovan Sharp. He was doing all right, but not quite your day job levels of all right. It might sound impossible, but yes, at one point, Donovan Sharp was actually relevant. Imagine that. Before Donovan got exposed, again, more info in this video, he was actually a kingmaker. Kevin Samuels, seen as the second coming to a lot of these misguided men. Donovan Sharp was the one who put him on before he was even known. Just pearly things as well, and of course, Fresh and Fit. Anyways, it was around this time that Myron met Solo TV 84. This is the guy who introduced Myron to Fresh aka Walter Weeks, and Desperation.
Man, it's interesting. This is such a whole community of people that like you just don't hear about anymore. Do you hear about just Pearly Things anymore? Does she even exist? Oh my god, her channel's dead, dude. What the fuck? 2 million subscribers. Is this like a botted account or something? How does she have 2 million subscribers and her most popular video has 600,000 views? How is that the case? The reason fake trad wives target dorky guys is terrible. This feminist claims banning TikTok is an attack on women's rights. This is how the LA fires get worse with DEI hires in power. Good one, dude. Good one. This is the person I want to listen to for everything. For literally everything, dude.
Thus began the Fresh and Fit podcast. Solo TV coincidentally subscribes to my channel, and I've got lots of videos critiquing the Red Pill and Red Pill creators. So if he subbed as what I assume to be an ex-Red Pillar, you, the viewer, you know what to do. From this point on, Fresh and Fit was in its crawling stages. A lot of the videos and live streams were genuinely self-improvement focused. Things like the truth and fitness, is fasting superior, do looks matter, and general actionable advice that is actually helpful. Then when you take a look at the live streams, it's stuff like how to find success with women in Europe, social media versus real life for dating, and bedroom tips as well. A far cry from what FNF has become, as those of you who are familiar with them no doubt know. It continued a lot like this for some time. Having the guys that have put them on first, or that they collab with first, like Minister Jap, Donovan Sharp, Kevin Samuels, and the rest of them on. But it didn't find anywhere close to the same success they eventually grew to regularly enjoy, found in their after hours. It wasn't until one day that they had some girls in the studio and they decided to go live with said girls and interview them.
Yo, guys, we have some lovely ladies in the studio tonight. They're all beautiful. But we want to say one thing. It's gonna be fun tonight. It's gonna be lit.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Fun, hell yeah.
So,
Okay, so first question, right?
Women,
Yeah.
a blonde in one studio. What else are you trying to
Hey,
figure
man,
out?
it's lit.
First question, right? What do girls want in a guy? Boom.
From this point on, FNF didn't know this
Boom.
yet. They struck gold. You might look at the YouTube scene and see everyone and their mom interviewing women and asking them what their
This is a thing that happens with a lot of communities, I think, that you'll see online where, you know, you can criticize the fact that from the jump, you know, the whole red pill movement was built on a lot of retarded beliefs and ideas. And, you know, even the guy that Fresh and Fit was inspired by turned out to be a major hypocrite. You know, you can't make the argument that at the start, you know, providing weightlifting advice, that's generally good advice, I think, for people, for guys. I don't think that weightlifting will necessarily improve your chances with women, to be honest, but you know, maybe it could. And even if it can't, it's still good to get guys into weightlifting, right? That's generally good advice. A lot of that kind of very base level stuff that you could get basically anywhere else. Like, I don't know. Just have a fucking dad. Nobody has a dad these days, apparently. But your dad should be telling you to weightlift, not podcasters. But whatever the case, you know, it's still a good thing if you get into weightlifting, whatever the method is. You know, that is kind of a noble thing. But I think what they found is that, you know, rather than providing genuine self-help advice, the thing that ultimately got them the most popular was sensationalist content where they just have a bunch of OnlyFans girls in their podcasts and shit on them, right? Like that's ultimately going to get you a lot more attention. Sensationalist content where you have a bunch of women on and you say, do you remember what you have for breakfast? Do you remember what you have for breakfast? That kind of thing is going to be a lot more popular and clippable. And I am glad to see that this kind of content, well, am I glad to see that it's dying? I don't know that I'm glad to see that it's dying. I think that it is ultimately a good thing that this kind of content is not the stuff that's informing young men anymore. Because I don't think that these guys, these massive hypocrites with their own personal lives, even beyond their advice being dumb, are the guys you should be listening to for like a father figure. If you want a father figure, just talk to your actual father. Talk to your actual dad.
body count is.
Just gave
Picking
him
out
a 9.
women.
You gave me a 2. You only gave me a 2 because of the whole interaction that we've been having.
Women don't care about weightlifting at all. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they care at all. I think it is good for everybody to be in the gym, but I wish that like exercise is like a bare minimum for life. Like consistently exercising is such a bare minimum standard that I feel like everybody should be upholding. Like there's frankly, for the majority of people in the first world, very little excuse to not be exercising consistently. Not everybody has to weight lift. Not everybody has to run. Not everybody has to do, I don't even know what Pilates or whatever women do, right? Not everybody has to do that one specific thing. But if you have the time, there's generally no excuse to not be exercising consistently. There's really no excuse for that. But it shouldn't be considered like, I guess I just hate the fact that it's like, we've gotten to the point now where people are so fat. People are so lazy that it's considered like a male self-improvement thing. And even that's how I saw it at the beginning of when I started weightlifting, right? Like that's definitely how I was like, what the fuck, like looks maxing? Like I wasn't thinking like in such a cringe. I had like a little bit of self-awareness about it. I wasn't thinking like as cringe as these guys, but I definitely was thinking like, oh my God, I'm weightlifting now. And like once I got into weightlifting for like probably 6 months after I was doing it, I was like, huh, well, I lift, right? But it's like, that should be like the bare minimum should be that you're exercising consistently. That should be the bare minimum for basically everyone, right? I think it should be. I had an injury recently and I haven't been able to work out and I feel gross. Yeah, that's the thing. Once you start working out consistently, it just becomes a habit for you. And if you're not doing it, you'll feel bad about it, right? Being out of shape is just a built-in indicator of how much you don't care about yourself. Yeah.
Right? So do me a favor. whatever. Get the fuck up and get the fuck out.
But Fresh and Fit were the pioneers of this whole thing. They were the ones who stumbled upon the formula and figured it out first. Many people have tried and failed miserably. For example, the Fake and the Pretender.
I hit a wall in working out. I can't see gain no more. Coach says roids, but I'm done, I think. Yeah, do not do steroids. Do not do steroids under any circumstance. What I will say is, like, I think if you're working out, it doesn't have to be a thing where you're trying to be, like, the biggest guy ever. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a thing where you're constantly trying to get to that next level. If you get to a certain point where you're happy with how you look, just keep consistently going for, maintenance purposes to keep working out. But you don't have to be constantly pushing yourself to your body's limits in every aspect. I think that is one sort of toxic part of gym culture where... I hate the word toxic. I hate that I even said that. But, everybody, you go on Instagram Reels, you see all these guys that are jacked to the gills, like Sam Sulek, clearly on a bunch of gear. And, like, that's the standard you want to uphold yourself to. Like, it's totally respectable to be just a guy who works out and, like, has a relatively normal, quote-unquote, average physique, right? You're doing better than 99% of people out there who are not exercising whatsoever.
More info on this cornball in these videos. And others have tried it too, and they've arguably made it even better, like the Whatever podcast. Note that I'm just looking at the numbers. I think the entire niche of asking women the same question is played out and boring, but the fact still stands that FNF were the ones who started this whole thing. From this point on, it was business as usual. Growing pretty fast in their niche of the red pill, not making too many waves outside of that, and generally giving a peek into the dating world of Miami. At this point, their fan base, although still red pillars, was a lot more tame. The launching pad that finally shot Fresh and Fit into the mainstream was Kevin Samuels. His appearance on FNF through a phone call was the first time they went viral for real. Kevin Samuels at the time was also going viral. While Fresh and Fit are known for the whole inviting women on the show and making fun of them thing now, Kevin Samuels started this aspect. And before I get the Kevin Samuels fanboys in the chat saying he did it to both men and women, I know that is technically true, but I have never seen a viral Kevin Samuels clip of him doing it to a man. We all know why he's famous. He wasn't known for holding men accountable. He is known for telling women they're average at best, fat, and the rest of that. Keep it a buck. That's what people tuned in for. Even in that Fresh and Fit collab video that got them so many views, what was it for?
There's a hierarchy of needs. You are correct. We
don't need you.
College.
We don't need you. You need us.
Great.
We don't need you. You need us, dude. This guy is funny. I don't know a lot about him, but he is funny.
Need you either.
I know we don't need you for survival. You need us for survival.
Clearly wasn't for holding Fresh accountable or Myron accountable. Nope, it was for what he was known for. Sidebar here. I'll never understand the attraction to asking someone their standard and then telling them that they'll never get it. To me, it seems wholly boring. All this high value man talk from Fresh and Fit. By now, we've seen the biggest supporters of their yacht parties and their Twitter spaces, and well...
I mean, I think the reason why people like that is because they get some sense of catharsis, because there are, like, it's not the average woman, but there are women that exist who are like, 300, 350 pounds, and you'll see an interview with them and they'll be like, what are your standards for a man? And they're like 6'4", jacked, giant dick, $500,000 a year income minimum. You will see girls like that exist, and it's not the average woman. It's a small percentage of them, but there are women like that do exist. So I think guys get some sense of catharsis out of seeing an attractive woman get told you're nothing, your standards will never be met, right? I think it's like a sense of catharsis guys get.
Let's just say I'm not sure that even the worst Miami girl has one of these high value men on their radar. Anyways, this was a very key and pivotal point for Fresh and Fit for two reasons. One reason was lesser known and lesser talked about. Of course, it's key because Fresh and Fit now is co-opting the success of Kevin Samuels, and the video went viral. The stream itself is sitting at 650k views at the time of this writing, and the video clips that came from the situation were probably seen over 1 million times between Fresh and Fit and their other clip channel / reposters. But the other way this is a turning point for Fresh and Fit, unbeknownst to anyone involved, was due to the beef that would later come out between FNF and the very person apparently that they looked up to and helped them so much, Kevin Samuels. But before we get to that, there are some in-between things to be spoken about. FNF was starting to see a formula. Invite girls on, interview them, say some controversial things, cuss them out, dunk on them, and that equals views. Myron went viral on TikTok many times.
They banned you for telling the truth on TikTok.
Yeah, the video that got me banned was basically when I said, this is what happened. I made a video and I said, hey guys, when a girl says, let's reschedule, I said, you need to punish her for that bad behavior. And when you meet her on the date, she needs to pay for the first drink. The feminists went crazy because I said punish and bad behavior. And I said, you can't reinforce good behavior with good treatment if she flakes. And they're like, oh my God, you're treating her like a dog. And it's like, what it's really come down to is this. Women don't want to be held accountable for flaking on men.
One of which was because he said punish bad behavior in relation to a girl canceling a date. In context, not gonna lie, I do understand what he's saying. Basically, don't be a doormat and...
Oh, so did people assume when he said punish bad behavior, they meant they assumed he meant like hit them or something or treat them like some kind of animal? Is that the impression that they were getting from that? I mean, once again, I think that this is like, there were the red pill movement, not that I agree with them. But, you know, in the same way that like the anti-SJW community existed as a response to, you know, a lot of like cringe BuzzFeed, you know, quote unquote SJWs, Tumblrina feminists, right? And then that, you know, community you can argue became cringe in and of itself. The Fresh and Fit sort of red pill community created as a response to, you know, a thing that does happen. It's not like as widespread of a problem as Fresh and Fit would like you to believe. It's not every woman. It's not even 10% of women. But it is created in response to a few women, a certain demographic of women that do have unrealistic standards, that demand a lot from men while demanding nothing for themselves, that don't take accountability for their own actions. And I think that is why that community exists. It's essentially taking a small demographic and saying, okay, actually this is all of them. And then, you know, guys get catharsis from seeing OnlyFans girls go on and be like, you know, bullied basically, right? That's essentially it. To be honest, it sounds like he chooses those wordings because he knows it will cause outrage, which equals more views. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. I don't know that that's the case, but I mean, definitely, like, I think a lot of these guys know that phrasing something relatively innocuous in the most crazy way possible will get you views and will get you attention. So there's definitely some aspect of that. But before I go any further, today's video is sponsored by Gamersubs, the best energy drink in the freaking game. They've got a lot of really good flavors. It tastes great. It's way more affordable than other energy drinks or soda. And they also pay me, which is good because it's me. So be sure to use code TOM to get 10% off at gamersubs.gg. Just click the link down in that video description to tap in with the greatest chug juice ever. All right, now back to the video. Did you see Myron going at ABBA for distancing himself while at the same time supporting Tate? I didn't see that, but that's not entirely surprising. ABBA, from what I've seen from ABBA and Preach, has a pretty good head on his shoulders for these kinds of things. So generally, I agree with his takes when I see them. I haven't seen everything he said, but generally I do agree with what he's saying most of the time.
When you do reschedule, I think playfully saying, oh, you gotta buy me a drink because you came late is actually not that bad. But he used the words punish because, like I said before, they want controversy. It's a double-edged sword because Myron is fine with being the villain. It actually worked well for some time using the strategy. Their fan base was completely separate from the fan base that got angry at the punish bad behavior thing. So they lost literally no traction. And in fact, they gained more. Quick crash course about cancellation is that it only works if the fans care.
ABBA made a Destiny video. Yeah, I saw it. I generally agree with most of what he said. Tom is our Tumblrina tomboy fart fetish princess. Good one, dude.
For example, Donald Trump
True.
correctly stated, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? Because Donald Trump has the ultimate cancel deterrent, and that's a fan base that literally likes him on the basis of him being him. Nothing he does can change that, including but not limited to bloody murder. The other not as reliable, but still workable way of deterring a loss of fan support, aka cancellation, is having the controversy be separate from what you're liked for, which is what happened in the case of FNF. Like I said, the fans like this, so it naturally escalated to kicking girls out of the studio for their bad behavior. It was so well.
I feel like this guy phrased this poorly. I feel like the actual strat is having the controversy why you were liked, right? Because like if someone like, you know, if some like super PC creator, I mean, pick, or not even just a PC creator, any like normal content creator, right? All of a sudden had a podcast where they were saying the things that Fresh and Fit were saying about women, about race, about these different topics, they would be absolutely canceled, right? But if you build an audience that expects you to say stuff like that, then you won't really get shit for it, right? Like it seems to be, to me, it seems to be the case that the only way you really lose your audience entirely, apart from getting banned or going to jail or something, right, where you can't post content, the only way you really lose that is by being something that completely in every way betrays your values, or at least the values you speak out about. But even that is not enough to get people canceled sometimes or get a lot of audience backlash, right? Ryan in chat says, a dog can be a great way to stay in shape, both physically and mentally. My own dog, Orla, and previous dog, Maya, I took and take on long hikes. I train them as therapy animals for myself and others. I mean, it can be. I mean, there's a lot of good ways to get exercise. You know, there's not just one good way, but you know, basically what I'm saying, I guess, is like, or what I was saying earlier, is there's no real excuse to not at least try to explore options to be fit, right? Like there has to be some form of exercise that you like. There has to be some form you enjoy. And if you truly don't enjoy any form of exercise, your mind is probably fucked and you're probably in a very bad place in life mentally. Like I remember this one clip of Ethan Klein where he was like, life is too short to exercise. I'm not going to fucking exercise. And I remember seeing that and just being like, dude, what is wrong with you? Come on. Life is too short to exercise. By exercising, you prolong your life. And also like exercise is fun. Like going to the gym is like a relatively easy thing to do. It's not like back-breaking work all the time, right? It's fucking fun. You get to listen to music, zone out, lift weights. You feel cool. You feel strong. You feel like a Chad, you feel masculine, right? Like it's fucking fun. Or you get to go with your friends and like, you know, they help you out. You're all pushing each other to improve yourself and become the best version of yourself physically you can be. It's fun. I don't know. I hate exercise, but I still do it. I don't get hating exercise. Like when I was in high school, I definitely hated team sports, and I stopped doing them at a certain point because I was just so into YouTube stuff. But you know, at a certain point, you just gotta lock in and find something that you do like, and you will generally enjoy it. I have a lot of fun. The gym is like one of the things I look forward to most during my day.
Received that it became a staple in their videos. All the FNF fans were waiting with bated breath for one of these girls to do something, or in some cases, do nothing and get kicked off the show.
All right, later, bye. We've debunked culture.
Like obviously, like lifting weights, like okay. When I say it's fun, like obviously like there's a physical hardness that comes from it, right? There's a physical difficulty that comes from lifting an amount of weight that is slightly above what you're supposed to do to reach muscular hypertrophy. So you're actually gaining muscle, right? Obviously it's like physically taxing, but like life isn't meant to be just endless pleasure, endless hedonism, right? That's not what life is supposed to be. If that's all you have, you won't appreciate the things that are genuinely good. You become desensitized to good things, right? If all day, every day, all you do is have sex will no longer be fun for you. You'll become completely desensitized to it. If all day, every day, all you do is eat junk food, you will not appreciate junk food anymore. You'll become desensitized to it. You have to have some aspect of like difficulty or struggle in life to some extent. Like no matter what it is, you got to find something to appreciate the things that are good, to appreciate the good moments. Life is not supposed to be endlessly just spamming the fucking come button.
Culture is a myth. It's not as common as people say it is.
Yo, she
like, you want to go cry outside.
Yeah.
Like, bro, this is an adult conversation. If you can't divorce your emotions from reality, that's two different things. Does anyone else want to join her?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
right,
us
cool.
too.
Leave.
Yeah. Leave. Yep. Who else? Go ahead.
Who else?
Boom. Yep.
I'm by myself.
Get up and leave. Yep. Get up and leave.
Now you know where the punishing bad behavior comes from and where the term Frank Castle in relation to the Fresh and Fit podcast comes from, if it wasn't already obvious. So from here, it again continued to grow as a podcast. At this point in time, the guests invited weren't horrible. Of course, we had some scammers and charlatans, namely the fake and the pretender, who will teach you how to run a business and be a man for the low price of $1,000 when his only successful business I can find is his YouTube or is YouTube related, like his merch or his cult. And he bullies.
The majority of these courses are absolute fucking scams. Absolute scams. There are some that are probably good. There are very few that are probably good, not in the red pill space, but there are probably some good courses online you can take, like taking a video editing course might be able to help you out, or I don't know, taking a course on drawing might be able to help you out if you want to pay a premium for that from somebody who's experienced at doing it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But generally speaking, you know, any like red pill course that gives you these very nebulous ideas like how to make money, how to grow your business, how to become an alpha male, like that's all going to be complete scam bullshit. And you do not want to pay for that. You do not want to pay for that. And frankly, even for other stuff like video editing, if you want to learn video editing, there's a lot of free stuff online that you can just use. Like when I was learning how to do video editing for YouTube, I didn't pay anyone to learn it. I did not pay anyone to learn it. I just went on YouTube and looked up tutorials. If I needed to learn how to keyframe something, if I needed to learn how to do some kind of specific effect, I would just look up online how to do it, and there would be a tutorial there that I could watch for free that I could use. Meanwhile, when I went to college, they were teaching me Photoshop basics. And the way they were teaching me Photoshop basics in college was showing me YouTube tutorials that I had already fucking seen when I was 14 years old. Like it's generally speaking, most information about stuff like that, as far as technical skill, if you are doing something on a computer, generally you can learn it on the internet. Generally speaking, you can for free. You keep referencing Band of Brothers. I think you would enjoy Generation Kill. I've seen Generation Kill all the way through. It's a good show. Thank you, KD, for becoming a member. ADIDAZ. All day I dream about Zins. True. Can you drop sock merch so I can have your face on my toes all day, every day? If not, well, that's okay. Hope your Wednesday is great. You never know what might be coming down the merch pipeline. You truly never know. You truly never know. Everything I paid in college to learn can be learned for free on the internet. I mean, that was my experience. I mean, it depends on what you go for, right? Like, if you're trying to be a fucking doctor, you know, obviously there might be some stuff you can learn online, but you're not going to be able to get the experience and know-how to be a doctor just from the internet, nor are you going to be able to get a certificate to actually practice. You have to go to med school. You just have to, right? But with certain things like media production stuff, I think generally speaking, you're better off just, unless you really, really are desperate to work in the industry, you know, like the traditional legacy media industry, and get that certificate so you can work at like CNN. Generally, you're going to be better off just learning it online and trying to do it trying to make it as a living online, right? There's a lot of avenues to do it now. There's a whole market now of people who, for media production stuff, they work for YouTubers, right? Like these are a lot of the employers in the media production space. There are people whose entire lives at this point will not be being a YouTuber, But it also won't be being an on-camera personality or working behind the scenes for some kind of news station. It's going to be working for YouTubers, online personalities, online businesses. And it makes perfect sense. You know, these things are much more accessible now.
18-year-old girls for having the audacity to not want to be associated with him. More info in this video. And Donovan Sharp, who is literally a career criminal, who has scammed everyone from his fans to his literal dad. But there was also some decent value being added. They had divorce lawyers on, credit score tips. They also had some entertainment. Michael Blackson, DJ Academics, Traplo Ross, and other pretty notable names outside of the red pill niche. Basically, at this point, they weren't known just for women coming on. They were known for mainly that, but people actually trusted their platform to at least have some decent people. The air around these guys was basically, okay, they're jerks to women, but they're not necessarily bad people. Myron's a hothead who's been hurt by women and hasn't gotten over it. Fresh, he's just along for the ride and has no beliefs about any of this. The rest of the crew is more or less irrelevant. They're controversial, but not necessarily bad, right? That was until about this moment.
Because you got triggered, baby. What's going on in here?
What is going on? Did they get swatted?
Don't do it, bro. What's up? Don't do it, man. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Who is this guy? Why is he breaking into the studio? Well, to answer those questions, you gotta take a slight step back. This is Abba and Preach. Both will be relevant, but especially Abba as things progress. The 19th law of power. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person.
You're doing the 48 rules of power right now? We're going through the 48 laws of power. All right, dude. Interesting. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. Know your master. That's pretty funny. I mean, I guess if you want to, you know, if you want raw, just like power, as in you want to be the most famous, popular, rich person of all time, maybe this is good advice. If you want to be based and, you know, altruistic and, you know, stand on business, as they say, I don't know if this is a good rule to follow, but I guess if you're just trying to get as big as possible, I mean, not offending the wrong person is probably a wise thing, I guess.
Ever there was one mistake that led to the downfall of Fresh and Fit, it would be this. Before Abba and Preach was invited onto their podcast, Myron said this on a separate podcast in relation to Abba.
I'm really happy that I went last because everyone on this panel made phenomenal points, and I'm gonna take a bit from everybody, and I was like kind of like taking notes in my head as everyone was speaking. This is what I think. He went and he read The Rational Male. He probably went through some RP rage in 2013, couldn't get girls, whatever it may be, right? Struggled, right? Then his YouTube channel started to blow up. And this is one thing I've learned about a lot of guys that consume the RP. They take it to the point that they start to get women. Once they start to get women, they get rid of it. Hey, I don't need this crap no more. I'm not no misogynist. Bam, right? And they think that they don't need it anymore. And then that goes back to exactly what Lucario was.
So he's saying that ABBA was a loser, subscribed to the red pill ideology, got women, and then betrayed the ideology. I mean, like, the thing is, like, what else are you supposed to do? Like, if you follow the whatever red pill advice is, right? Let's say you do follow the red pill advice, it works out for you. You start being able to get girls. Like, what else would there be? Literally, what else would there be? Like, are you just supposed to keep going with that forever? Do you have to, can you not betray the movement? What is The Rational Male? What is this book? The Rational Male, book by Rollo Tomasi. The Bible of the Red Pill, The Rational Male. Interesting. What is this? TheRationalMale.com. Mate switching hypothesis is cope? What did we just find? What is this website, dude? Rollo Tomasi on Twitter. Oh, I recognize this guy. #1 best-selling author of the Rational Male book series, host of the Rational Male podcast and Access Vegas. The quickest path to becoming a high-value woman. 1, accept no accountability. 2, play the God card as needed. 3, create a women's ministry. 4, subsidize motherhood. 5, divorce your beta husband. 6, enjoy sexual freedom. 7, profit from OnlyFans and claim victimhood on podcasts. Bro, what rabbit hole am I delving down right now? What is this website? If you follow me on Twitter or are a semi-regular viewer of my show, Access Vegas, you've likely seen me being critical of what's known as mate-switching hypothesis. This hypothesis has been proffered as an alternative or a counter to the prevailing hypothesis known as dual mating strategy. The mate-switching theory was popularized by the godfather of evolutionary psychology, Dr. David Buss, in 2017.
Mercy, I'm about to bust.
This theory made its way into his 2021 book, Men Behaving Badly, which in my opinion was an effort at apologetics for conventional masculinity. This book's release conspicuously coincided with Dr. Buss's pre-selling his now defunct The First Date course in December 2020. What is the mate-switching hypothesis? The following essay is an article outlining mate-switching hypothesis written by Dr. David Buss. This was the earliest, most comprehensive write-up I could find by Buss himself. Remember that this piece was written in 2017, 4 years before the publication of Men Behaving Badly or the First Date course. Emphasis is my own. Scientists now know much about human mating. The menu includes, at minimum, brief sexual flings, long-term pair bonding, some infidelity, some polygyny, one man, multiple wives, rare polyandry, one woman, multiple husbands, occasional polyamory, some divorce, and frequent serial mating. These strategies are not well captured by single labels such as monogamous or polygamous, and we know with reasonable certainty that lifelong monogamy does not describe the primary pattern. Interesting. So I guess this psychologist is trying to say that lifelong monogamy, meaning marriage between two people, is not the most common pattern. From an evolutionary perspective, male infidelity is fairly straightforward. Men have evolved a strong desire for sexual variety, stronger than women's on average, due to the large asymmetries in parental investment. Men can reproduce with as little effort as it takes to inseminate a fertile woman. Women require a metabolically costly 9-month pregnancy to produce a single child. Stated differently, an ancestral married man with 2 children could have increased his reproductive output by 50% by a single successful reproduction with an affair partner. Adding additional sex partners for women who already have one generally does not, and never could have, dramatically increased their reproductive success. Yet women do have affairs, a phenomenon that up until now has been explained by the good genes hypothesis. The concept that women have evolved a dual mating strategy, securing investment from the man while mating on the side with men who have better genes than their regular partners.
Who are these niggas?
What the fuck? Problems arise in this model for 2 reasons. First, rarely does the ideal combination of alpha seed and beta need, alpha seed, manifest in the same man at the same instance in time as a woman can appreciate it to want to form long-term bonds with this ideal man. This is not just a modern frustration for women. The template for ancient and contemporary romance literature is based on stories of women agonizing over their decision to marry the hot, exciting bad boy or the stable, loyal, good dad prince. In Beauty and the Beast, Belle falls in love with the beast, not the prince. But the character of the beast and prince is the perfect analogy of this alpha fucks and beta bucks dichotomy. Belle can have the wild beast or the stable prince, but never both simultaneously. I don't buy into this. I don't buy into this dichotomy where men fit into 2 categories, where they're either the stable prince or the wild beast. I don't think this is accurate. Women can date an attractive guy who is fun to be around and also has money and is a stable person. Grouping people exclusively into these 2 categories, or even broadly into these 2 categories, ignores the fact that, you know, we're not monkeys, we're not animals. Humans are different. We have our own free will. We can occupy whatever space we want, or we can try to occupy whatever space we want. If I saw this scribbled in shit in a mental word, I think that's about right. There's such a wide berth of literature here to dissect. This is really fucking long. Holy shit. Tommy Loren versus Rollo Tomasi. Obviously, I'm skimming here, so I'm not getting the majority of the literature. I've had a lot of my YouTube subscribers tell me that my admittedly long-form live stream videos are being chopped off at the 2-hour mark. I've been aware of this problem for a month now, and as much as I'd like to suspect it's YouTube and Google censorship, it's really a compiling error between StreamYard, my streaming app, and how YouTube saves the video after it streams. Well, at least he's not accusing YouTube of censorship here erroneously. I had to search for a fix right after the Will Smith Jada Pinkett breakdown video I did was likewise chopped at the beginning. That was easily my most popular and best watched video on the channel, and people wanted the whole damn thing. Needless to say, it's kind of frustrating when I dig into videos like Will Smith and now my dissection of Tommy Loren's Dating Men and Rage Quit video. Tommy's Femme Screech has been all the rage du jour in the manosphere and on pro-revenge doom pill YouTube since last Wednesday. You just can't pass on that kind of grade A USDA choice red meat. Even TradCon women holding legitimate opinionist positions at some of the bigger news aggregate blogs had to put something out about Tommy's raging meltdown. Is it Tommy or Tommy? And as expected, they were either piling on with her frustration about men not living up to the responsibility of being real men, or else it was more unwitting anti-feminist feminism, the same thing Tommy has suffered from since she was 20. It's Tommy? Okay. What is her meltdown? What did Tommy Loren say? Sorry, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. We'll get back to the video at hand.
This is a PSA for all the men out there and all the boys who think they're men, but they're actually boys. This is going to be the summer of canceling boys. All of my friends are attractive. All of my friends are successful. Almost every single one of them have an issue with men. If all of these women, including myself, are having issues, then I have to think it might not be us. It might be men. It is not just the guys in Los Angeles, Nashville, Dallas. Quite frankly, I think they're trash all over this country. I am tired of dealing with trash men. If you want to mix in People like me and people like my friends who are go-getters, please don't mix us in with the Tatianas. If we find out that you are also talking to 5 Tatianas who have nothing going on, Houston, we have a problem. It will be a cold day in hell.
Interesting. So Tommy Loren's like a conservative commentator, so I imagine she got some shit for that. Men do not like aggressive women with big egos and entitlement mentality, period. A lot of women seem to think they deserve the best just for existing, but Tommy takes it to a whole new level by thinking because she's accomplished, it entitles her man's worship and adoration. Men do not care about women's degrees, accomplishments, accolades, money, etc. A woman who is dirt poor, never been to college, or has all of the true feminine qualities will be snapped up real quick and much more highly valued than Tommy Loren and her friends. To be honest, I think I'd rather date Tommy Loren than whatever this guy is describing. Some dirt poor hut dweller. To be completely honest with you. True feminine qualities. Tatiana was cute 10 years ago. She's a child. I mean, I don't know when this video is from. It says it's from 2021, this clip, but I feel like I remember this video coming out even before that, but I don't really know. Anyhow, back to the question at hand.
Saying they ain't in it like we are. You know what I'm saying? They took what they needed, got the clout, got the girls. Now
I've seen more women hating on men than men hating on women online. To be honest, I think it's relatively equal. To be honest, I think at this point, you know, I might have said that like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I might have said that's the case, but at this point, ever since the red pill stuff blew up, I honestly don't really think that's the case, dude. There's plenty of men hating women online. There's plenty of it, dude. There's plenty of it. Depends where you look or what's on your feed, but I've seen a lot of it. True femininity is doing nothing with your life. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what that guy was saying, right? True femininity is not having a job, not having money, not having accomplishments. True femininity is sitting that ass down, I guess.
Now, you know what? I can start to observe some of these blue pill ideals that I used to have. Some of the, what they call purple pill, right?
Yeah.
As some guys call purple pill. So he didn't consume the content enough and learn it to get out of the RP rage. So he was in RP rage, starts getting girls. Okay, you know what? I got the clout now, whatever. I'm kind of aware of female nature, but I don't need to consume any more of this content. I'm good. And then he gets out. And then this is why you end up with this wavery type situation where, well, it's toxic or blah, blah, blah. Anybody that has common sense understands that the RP and everything else like that, alpha, beta, all these, they're placeholder terms to explain things. It doesn't necessarily mean.
Abba caught wind of this and went onto their podcast with this in mind. Myron, for as much as he likes to be seen as alpha who puts women in their place, seems to be a lot more demure and docile in the presence of men. Abba's not even a domineering guy. He just looks like your average dude. And when confronted on this, here's how he reacted.
Specifically, you felt like we were kind of blue pilled, right?
I don't remember. What show was this one?
I remember very, very well because that episode I was very careful of what I said because you watched it. That episode I was very careful of what I said because you watched it.
So I just want to ask you about that. Why do you think I might be blue pilled?
Well, from what I remember, I'm trying to remember. I would say blue, like.
Bro, you just went on this long rant about how retarded ABBA is, and you can't even justify it now. You just went on this long rant about how ABBA blew up and stopped adhering to the red pill. Stop caring about the true male values and being a high-value male. Once he got money, he got bitches, right? And now, when you're face-to-face with them, it's like you're so... I don't even remember, dude. I don't even remember, dude. I don't know what it was, dude. These guys literally believe a millionaire man will date and marry an uneducated McDonald's worker, and they say rich women won't do it, when in reality, no rich person is dating and marrying a McDonald's worker. I mean, it depends on how rich you're talking about here. I mean, I wouldn't make such a broad, sweeping generalization like that unless I was trying to be funny or being hyperbolic. But I do think that generally speaking, if I had to guess, people kind of date and marry within their economic class. I would guess that men are more willing to, quote unquote, marry down an economic class than women, I would guess. But I don't know that to be the case across the line. Ethan is online, is trying to put blame on you for that kid's actions. Reminds me of Manson getting blamed for Columbine. Makes zero sense in a bad faith claim. Yeah, I mean, if you read that kid's manifesto, it's a complete troll. He was just trying to get attention. And he was trying to get people like Ethan is online to play into his hands, which is exactly what Ethan did. I will say there seems to potentially be something deeper going on with that particular case, as far as that whole 764 thing, the various blackmail cults. I'm not saying that kid did that as a result of that. Once again, I have to read into it more. But there does seem to be some kind of deeper thing going on when it seems like that kid was in contact with that other shooter, this girl right here, Samantha Rupp now. It seems like he was in some of the same online circles as her, which is kind of concerning. But yeah, I mean, Ethan is online is just a rich person. To quote Warren Jeffs, a disgusting human being and prophet of the FLDs, ladies, build up your husband by being submissive, keep sweet. The thing is, like, it just seems so You know, when I was younger, I had it in my mind that, oh my God, you date the submissive trad wife. Those people are fucking retarded and boring. Those people are insufferable. Those people are insufferable. They're so fucking annoying. And usually they're fucking crazy. Like, you just don't, you know. I think you'll have much more fun. I'm not saying you have to date the most masculine, dominant, jacked woman in the world, but, you know, in my experience, the pushover meme is not that fun, to be honest with you. If that's what you want, you know, more power to you. That's what you enjoy, but I don't think that, I don't know. These online trad wife types are nuts, dude. They're nuts. Aren't you gay? Yeah, I only date men, obviously. I'm speaking hypothetically.
I'm trying to think, like, which video was...
It was the one...
I'm trying to remember...
I said, I quoted it right to his face. Even the goofy fresh boy. He was like, oh, Abba came with the smoke.
I also find it funny that he came with the smoke.
2 things to note. Walter instantly remembers it for 1. And for 2, Abba didn't come at him like, hey man, say man, who's talking shit? What the word is now about that? He actually said it pretty nicely and softened the blow with, why do you think I might be blue-pilled? Notice how he's stuttering and avoiding eye contact to end the situation. Also note that Walter, like the dunderhead he is, starts telling Myron, oh, I remember it. It was this day. Completely missing the...
Seems like Myron's only willing to screaming at confrontational with women he thinks he can talk down to and talk over. Seems like once he's presented with a true alpha male like Abba from Abba and Preach, he cowers in fear. Pretty embarrassing, not gonna lie, but also somewhat expected. Huck says there's a whole radicalization pipeline out there with those groups. That guy who got shot in the ear was a member and has a wild story after the viral video. Yeah, I watched the Broth video about that. What's his name? I can't remember his name right now. I don't want to incorrectly say the name, but I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Obvious fact that Myron is trying to run from it when he could have just said, yeah, I thought you were before, but I was clearly wrong. You seem chill. My bad. I had only 1 video to go off of. I take that back. Instead, he just obfuscates and plays dumb. Another thing worth pointing out is that during this live stream, Preach was laughing at what Walter was saying.
You're gonna tell me in my face. You're gonna tell me in my face that you just said, I don't want her, I want her soul broadcasted on internet, and you're gonna tell me that all these girls gonna have respect for it.
You know some of them.
Now, the real issue arises when we look at what happened after. I've Preached went on their channel and called them out. They both said some things that they didn't exactly say beforehand, nor did they let FNF know there'll be a generally negative video made about them. On this front, I somewhat sympathize. Probably be annoyed if I invited someone to my place and they decided to turn around and say things they could have just said to me on air. But at the same time, Myron did do some weirdo stuff too, avoiding taking account.
In fairness, like, they're just getting Myron back for what he did. Myron made a bunch of inflammatory comments. Abba got there to try to talk it out, and Myron was completely unwilling to stand on business and say what he really felt, apparently. Or maybe he didn't even feel that way at all, and he was just saying it for the audience because, you know, let's be honest, when you're a chatter with a large live stream audience, there are a lot of people who are like, oh my God, go after that guy, whether or not it's a good reason or not. So maybe that's what happened with Myron. I don't really know, but I mean, realistically, like, Myron was shit-talking him. Abba got there. Myron refused to shit-talk him. So Abba was like, okay, well, if that's the game you're going to play, I'll play the same game.
Accountability for his own words. So I guess it is fair game.
Number 2, she ain't gonna respect you.
People go on your show and disrespect you for free. And you kick them out. Isn't that true?
That's true.
So it's like this whole idea you gonna get respect from these ladies if you don't.
Both made some decent points. FNF said at the time, it's better that someone actually likes you and it's degrading to pay for it. And you're not getting the best, which I do kind of agree with. But also, they brought up disrespect and freaking Fresh of all people said every girl still loves him that he's ever been with. And he gets their soul. Yeah, not buying it. There's about 30
He gets their soul, dude. He gets their soul. Everyone I've ever dated is still obsessed with me. I get their soul, dude. I get their soul. To be honest, Walter, I don't think that's true. It's interesting how, you know, this is definitely some advice for content creators. If you pander to one specific sort of demographic of people, one specific trend, and you don't manage to blow up outside of that and transition, you're kind of bound for the floor if you don't get out while it's still good. I mean, look at, for example, Fresh and Fit, right? They pandered to a very specific kind of audience, a very specific kind of guy that wanted to see a specific kind of content. They're not doing that well anymore. They're not, you know, it's not abysmal. Like, they still make money, I'm sure, but it's not like it used to be. Versus you look at a channel like Abba and Preach. I mean, they're still absolutely destroying, right? They're still getting millions of views on a lot of their videos. They're still doing very, very well. 1 million views, 700K. And they're not, you know, once again, they're not pandering to one specific kind of person. They have a broader audience. They cover YouTuber drama like Johnny Somali. They cover some cringe teen body cam video. They cover this you know, news stories like the United Healthcare CEO murder. Like, they're you know, willing to expand outside of the general audience. And they're even willing to shit on some of these red pill guys versus, you know, Myron just kind of stuck to his one camp, and he paid the price for it. He paid the price in a very real way.
Minutes worth of evidence against that being the case are right here.
And you talk about the respect. Let me ask you something. all the girls you smashed.
Yeah.
If I talk to every one of them, you think they all respect you or are going to say good things about you?
Yes.
All of them?
All of them. You know, okay. Okay.
You know what's the best part? The live stream chat during that period, they were going crazy.
I know.
Yeah, they were just going, Cap, that's a lie.
At the end of the day, to each their own, but I'd rather become a eunuch than pay for play, but that's just me. But that's all besides the point. In response to this, Myron crashed out to the fullest extent.
I wasn't gonna do this! Wait, the hand symbol? Yo, I was not gonna fucking do this!
What is the Chef Fit?
My man Abba looks like he got off a camel, hasn't cut his hair in years!
A camel? Jesus. Jesus, dude.
Dusty as we got a better channel than y'all, more views than y'all. The only thing you guys got on us is you guys been on longer. But I guarantee you, next year, this time, we're gonna lap you. Because you know what? Nobody works harder than us.
Oh no, dude. That's brutal, dude. Absolutely destroyed. Nobody works harder than us. In a year, we're gonna be doing better than you. You know, something that's something that I think is like a kind of a life lesson that I've learned is instead of constantly talking about your accomplishments and how well you're going to be doing in a year, just do it. I found throughout my life that if I say, I'm going to do this, 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 I'm going to be here. If I'm constantly bloviating to people about how accomplished I am and how well things are going, it doesn't really work out. It doesn't really work out. So, you know, keep your hopes up high, keep your head down low. Okay. Don't constantly be braggadocious. Don't be egotistical. Don't be in your own head about this stuff. Don't be trying to talk about how amazing you are. Just do it. Just do it, okay? Just make good content. It's that simple.
We are better than you, period.
Just horrible, terrible, atrocious form. You're going at one of the most beloved creator duos who've been on this platform for years. Even though I think both parties somewhat have decent reasons to have issues with each other, one party just went about it all bad. This kicked off one of the most entertaining and long-standing feuds on YouTube that I've ever seen. From this point on, Abba and Preach, but more so Abba, made it his life's mission to destroy Fresh and Fit. But all he really did was bait them and then upload a video on what they did. I say Abba and Preach destroyed Fresh and Fit, but at the end of the day, they chose to behave this way and pick the wrong dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that they destroyed Fresh and Fit is ridiculous, right? Like, all they did is watch the show and just talk about whatever happened on Fresh and Fit that week, right? Fresh and Fit makes their own decisions. You know, they allow themselves to be farmed. For a lot of these lolcow type guys, right, the meme is always like they can't help themselves. They seemingly can't help themselves but get into trouble. But it is really true, right? You can escape the lolcow spiral. You can escape the curse by just not giving people something to make fun of or mock. By not giving people something to talk about and criticize you for. You can just not engage in that behavior. But a lot of these guys, they start getting criticism and it's like they double down harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And it's not even out of any principle. It's just to spite the people who don't like them. And that doesn't work out long term.
I like option every time. Things only got worse when Walter and Myron challenged Preach to a boxing match and insulted his supposed wife. The woman just ended up being a friend of Preach's, so she caught a crazy stray for no reason. But due to this, Preach, who took more of a backseat in this beef, was now at the forefront.
So real talk, man. We put out an invite. If y'all want to talk, come back in the studio. We'll talk about it. Or we can box about it too. Because I'm in the gym now. You feel me? I'm feeling nice right now.
We can box about it? Dude, I would love to see Walter box someone. That would be legendary. That would be so cool. Please, bro. Please.
That's why it's a box with Preach, bro. That's why it's a box with Preach.
Bro. So you know what? Come back to Miami. Let's box it out. Talk about it too. How about that? We're here waiting.
But like real talk, man. Like if we're gonna have this discussion, we're harder than you, straight up, and we work harder than you guys. We put out all different types of content.
Yep.
Bro, stop talking about how hard you work. You do a podcast, okay? Like, I'm not saying it's the easiest thing in the world. Obviously, there's a lot of people trying to do podcasts that don't succeed. So if you do succeed at some level, you probably work to get there. You probably, you know, improve your content to the point where people are willing to watch it. You know, whether or not it's good from some subjective standpoint. Like, obviously, people enjoy it. But, like, just stop, like, oh, I work harder than you. I'm epic. My dick is bigger than you. Look at my YouTube dick. I have more subscribers. Nobody cares. Literally nobody cares, dude. This is so cringe.
Just out here reacting. This Preach is married, probably to a fucking beluga whale somewhere, and y'all talking shit.
Myron had a complete.
I like how being married is an insult to these guys. To somebody who's in their 30s, these guys think that being married is a bad thing and just instantly assume that she's a beluga whale, that she's fat. That is their greatest insult. Oh, you're married. She's probably fat. Your own, dude. Bye. Like, that's a negative to them. I don't think being married is inherently a good thing, but it's certainly not a bad thing.
Completely different energy from before. Preach responded in kind, wanted all the action and then some.
And later on in the video, you're saying that you want to box with me. Sort of happened that I'm going to be in the U.S. next week. You want to do this shit? Let's go. Both of you. I'll be in the U.S. next week.
Hold up.
But now you want to do this?
You want to set up the boxing match?
Let's go!
Okay, we can set it up.
Both of you. Let's go.
Hey, man.
You want to do this? Let's go. Let's go.
Safe to say he wasn't ducking any smoke, especially not from someone who can't even look a woman in the eye, and even less so from Fresh.
On some level as well.
After this response from Preach, everyone pretty much was on Abba and Preach's side. Everyone found it abhorrent just how low Myron stooped. And
So did they? Let me guess, they ducked. Let me guess, they ducked the boxing match, right? Most people who, I mean, like low tier God, right? They talk shit online. Oh, this guy wants to catch your fade, right? They never end up boxing anyone they talk about. So, big prediction here. Boxing match didn't happen. Fresh and Fit totally backed out. Shocker.
and how he conducted himself. And some just couldn't rationalize how he would make fun of women for being emotional and not thinking with a level head when he did all that. This is also seen in the loss of subs at the time, a whopping 50k sub loss after this. All this jumping around yelling, we're better than you guys, literally halted their upward trajectory. It was kind of poetic if you think about it. It was because of
I guess there probably is a lot of crossover in their audience from young dudes who are looking for self-improvement content. I'm surprised it was that vast though. And I'm honestly surprised that they lost that many subscribers from it. But I mean, you know, I will say when you're talking about how all women are, you know, emotional, need to be put in a hazmat suit and are radioactive, and then you have a spurg out on stream mental breakdown. Like, obviously people are going to be like, what's going on there, big guy? What's going on?
Because of this loss of subs that Myron eventually copped a plea and posted on their community tab an apology to their fans and a wish of luck to Abba and Preach.
Best of luck to Abba and Preach in their future endeavors. See you guys tonight for a Fresh and Fit After Hours. What do you think about their apology?
They apologized to their supporters. He didn't apologize to me or my wife.
As soon as the boxing match happened, oh, we're sorry, guys. We're sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. They threatened to throw hands in the first place. These guys only responded. And now these guys are running scared because they're losing subscribers. What happened to standing on business? What happened to being base, dude? Come on, dude.
For my country.
Although they did cop a plea, they didn't really apologize to Abba and Preach. More so, they apologized to their fans. And even still, they got cooked for their response, so they had to respond once again on live with an actual apology. But at this point, the damage was already done. It became obvious he didn't mean it, and he was only doing it because they're hemorrhaging subscribers by the thousands. Because of this drama, everyone who had an issue with Fresh and Fit came out of the woodworks. It's like the whole time there was an animosity for them in the YouTube space, but they had such a vitriolic and mobile fan base that no one dared call them out, lest they have an army of men attacking them. It was only one.
This is something that happens a lot of the time, and I think that people don't realize how precarious of a situation they are in, truly. A lot of people with this history of controversies, they roll past them pretty well and manage to persist in their career, so they assume that they'll roll past anything, right? They assume they'll roll past anything, especially if the controversies in their past are not being talked about to a wider audience. What they don't realize is that it only takes one thing where someone out there realizes that something's going on for all of that other stuff to be brought up, right? Because that's how YouTube drama a lot of the time works. I mean, we've seen it time and time again with like various YouTubers where like they'll be trucking along, they'll be doing well. All of a sudden you hear about a controversy, you're like, okay, let's look through their past. You look through their past, you realize there were problems the entire time. They were being ignored because they were in good standing with the community. They hadn't pissed off the right people. And, you know, ultimately they at some point bite the hand that feeds, and it really bites them in the ass. I don't think they just ducked. I think Walter uploaded a story on Instagram buying his first gun the day after Preach proposed to fight. Really? Is that true? I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy. Pirate Software. Yeah, that's a great example. Pirate Software. I mean, the thing with Pirate Software is there were complaints about him, right? There were people accusing him of faking his voice. There were people talking about the live service controversy with him, you know, seemingly defending companies for shutting down live service games and not being in support of that, you know, the preservation of video games past the point at which these companies will shut them down. And, you know, people had problems with him, or with the Undertale kind of, you know, inspired game thing, right? People had problems with him. But with Pirate Software, none of it became such a big issue until the World of Warcraft stuff happened. And then all the issues got brought up, right? And it's interesting because the World of Warcraft thing is like the least important of his controversies. Like, it doesn't really matter that much. But it brought to light a lot of other things that people had been thinking about, but hadn't really become... It wasn't the right time to talk about it yet on YouTube. People weren't willing to pay attention because Pirate Software was such a likable guy to a lot of the audience. Once you do one thing that sets them off, they are willing to start looking through your past and be like, what's really going on here? What's really happening? You know, Pirate Software is fine. And he'll probably be fine long term. I agree. He'll probably be fine long term. But what I'm saying is there is a domino effect that happens in these cases, right? 6 months ago, it's hard to imagine videos with millions of views shitting on Pirate Software. Now, it's obvious why it's happening.
Once Abba and Preach revealed the chinks in their armor, that everyone realized, okay, wait, these guys are not beyond reproach. From there, it was an avalanche. You had women coming out with proof of Myron telling them that the only way they can get on the podcast is if they sleep with him.
And he said, no problem, I collab directly with girls I date, no pressure though. And I was like, so if we aren't dating, you don't want to collab? Because he's never even asked me on a date at this point.
This is the leader of what, like a million men? So a million or so.
No pressure, just if you want to come on my podcast, we need to fuck. No pressure though. No pressure at all, but if you want to come on my podcast, we need to have sex. What the fuck, dude? That's so weird. That's so odd. That's so odd, bro. Oh my God. Talk about beta behavior, chat.
So men who ostensibly have never had a real interaction with women, or at least very limited interactions, they're following the actions and words of this poor man's Harvey Weinstein. This is game. It didn't stop there. There was another girl who also accused Myron of getting her pregnant. Although that one didn't have much proof to back it up, I don't even believe it myself. It still came out. Myron still had to address it. But wait, there's more. At this time, it wasn't just people who knew them personally or had bad experiences with them. Arguably more damaging were the channels that came from this whole thing who are completely removed bystanders. O'Shea Duke Jackson, Spencer Cornelia, Playback, and many more were channels with decent to good followings before Fresh and Fit, but all this controversy made them pop to another level. And they're all more or less going strong to this day. There was a whole industry at this point surrounding calling out the sheer hypocrisy of these guys. We had channels that arguably were born out of this whole thing. Coach White Pill, Kevin Ray Wilder, John Anthony Lifestyle, all really were made from this, or got their channels revived from it at least. Well, at least it lasted for a short period of time. Bruh. Even my guy Duke the Don, no relation, had his channel really explode off critiquing Fresh and Fit. Point is, they had lots of people coming after them, and also lots of people distancing themselves from them.
This is a very dangerous place to be on the internet. Being criticized is one thing, being controversial is one thing, but having an entire industry that can exist off of just shitting on you, I mean, at that point, that's when you're delving into lol cow territory, right? That's probably when you need to be like, okay, maybe I need to reevaluate. Like, if there's such an industry, if people are able to buy houses off of shitting on me, maybe I need to reevaluate the way that things are going. You know, and at a certain level, if you're popular enough, like if you're like, let's say like Kai Cenat level or someone like that, right? Not that Kai Cenat is controversial, but Kai Cenat is famous enough that hypothetically, when he reaches as many people as he does, there could be people that could have, you know, be making car payments off of shitting on him, whether or not it's justified or not. Just because he's popular enough and reaches enough people, that anything he does could be considered controversial to some demographic of people that see it, right? But when you're someone of Fresh and Fit's level, who's not at that like mainstream amazing apex, but instead is kind of like a mid-level content creator, and yet people are able to subsist entire careers and get more views than you're getting off of just shitting on you, that's a very dangerous, precarious place to be. Obviously, lol cows, you know, traditional people like DSP, Wings, Boogie, you know, that's a very easy example to set, right? But these guys are another example, for sure. Thank you for providing content to listen to while shoveling. Gotta love winter in Down East Maine. Yeah, you do. You do. You do gotta love it, buddy. This industry is built around insecurity. I mean, yeah, true, obviously.
People that used to rock with them and co-sign them, now they're starting to see the millions of subscribers attacking them, the thousands of subs jumping ship, and they thought, I want no parts in this. One of those people was Kevin Samuels. First off, rest in peace. Anyone dying at such a young age is always a tragedy, but we gotta talk about the real, especially those of you who purport to be a high-value man. Isn't the whole thing about being masculine and compartmentalizing emotion from fact? Keep that in mind as you go through this part. Before Kevin Samuels passing and during this whole F&F is over party, Kevin Samuels and Fresh and Fit had a beef behind closed doors. Kevin Samuels, being as calculated and smart as he is, never publicly addressed it, but after his passing, everyone involved did. There's multiple sides to the story, so I'll list each one, give my take on it, and you guys can choose what you think makes the most sense. The people like O'Shea claim that Kevin Samuels called him and said he should stop supporting F&F because they're a brand risk and bad people.
And I'm going to tell you how I know that. When the Fresh and Fit and Alba and Preach beef broke out, I was taking Fresh and Fit side until I got a call one day. Kevin called me and said, hey man, take all those videos down against Alba and Preach, man. I'm like, what's going on? He was like, man, listen, I'm going to tell you certain things right now that you need to know, and Fresh and Fit was wrong. So we had a conversation. I was living in Poland at the time, about 2 hours. All the little dirty things that y'all was doing, I'm gonna get into it in this video.
It seems to have started because Kevin Samuels asked them to change their time slot because they're competing. Kevin felt owed that because he helped them get a big buzz originally.
We typically never stream at the same times, especially if we know each other, right? So if I know you and I got a show at 10, it's disrespectful if I'm your boy to start a show at the same time that you got, because that's my time slot.
The problem with this kind of thing, though, is then you rely exclusively on the audience of other people. Like, I'm never concerned about who is live when I'm live because I have my own audience independent of other content creators. And that was a conscious choice that I made, right? When I started streaming, and there would be other people who maybe shared some audience with me streaming, I just streamed through it because I knew that if I were to stop going live every single time that other people with semi-similar audiences were live, I would lose my audience to those other people, right? But if you stream through it, if you persevere, if you're willing to take the momentary lower viewership, you'll be rewarded in the long term. This is a problem that a lot of people on like the Twitch politics side of things run into, where as soon as Hassan is live, they go off the air because they know they're only picking up the scraps from Hassan. If they were to stream through that and try to create good content, it's feasible that they could have an audience. Not that Hassan makes good content, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's feasible they could have an audience past that point that is not entirely reliant on whether or not Hassan is not live. You know, you don't want to be stuck in the Hassan waiting room.
It's what we do. So I'm not going to help you build your audience so you can stream at the same time as me, which is what Kevin did. All right. So Kevin was like, look, I got my show at this time. Why don't you guys respect the fact that I have my show at this time? Look, I've been doing this show since 2020 at this time. And I'm the one that brought you guys the audience, and I didn't even charge you guys. And then they did some collaborations. They was using Kevin. They wanted to pay Kevin and all that.
Kevin apparently also wanted payment as well, which I personally do think is kind of crazy. Why charge for something that, while benefited FNF more, also benefited you? Up to this point, I think Kevin Samuels was wrong to ask for payment for a video, because apparently, now take this with a grain of salt because Donovan is a genuine pathological liar. Kevin Samuels wanted half the revenue from the video or something like that, which is completely outlandish. But I do think he's cool to ask for the time slot. And since they're friends and he did help them, I think it would make sense for FNF to oblige if they can. But apparently, things really got bad when it was discovered that FNF was calling Kevin Samuels the F slur behind his back, saying he'd beat his and things like that.
So the reason why Kevin Samuels didn't like you is because you was going behind his back, calling him homosexual names as well as Abba and Preach.
Now, this is a story told according to Kevin Samuels' camp, but according to FNF, it's a different story. Fresh and Fit state a big reason for them insulting Kevin Samuels behind the scenes was because they were just competitive like that. And they wanted to surpass him, obviously, so that's how he riled his team up. I think there may be some truth to this, but if you're truly friends and there's no underlying animosity, the words you might use are, we're gonna be bigger than Kevin Samuels one day, or we gotta reach Kevin Samuels' heights. Probably not, we're gonna be bigger than that ass Kevin Samuels.
So here's the story. Basically, long story short, guys, what happened was
I feel like it is kind of cringe of Kevin Samuels, honestly, to ask them to not stream during his time slot. Like, I feel like your audience should be able to exist without needing to rely on Fresh and Fit. I understand, you know, if they were cordial and they had that kind of relationship and he had done a lot for them, I can understand him being concerned and maybe a little bit upset at that. But at the same time, like, if somebody was telling me, like, don't go live when I'm live, I would be like, dude, fuck you, no, I'm going live whenever I want. I'm not relying on you and your audience. I don't need to adhere to what you want me to do. I have my own audience. I don't. If you can't pull viewers, if you can't pull the same amount of viewers that you would normally get when I'm live, you need to work on your own audience and grow your own audience. This is not my problem. Kevin Samuels' most savage moments.
Children can come out of whatever I do. I can be 70 years old, and as long as I'm not shooting blanks, I can make babies. You can't.
Owned.
The reason why I became a phlebotomy technician is because there's something called a paramedical insurance examiner.
Get the fuck off my phone, bitch. I don't get the phone. Go take blood, boy. Can't even. You in a job where people quiet in the background.
That was so epic.
Have you watched one of my videos? Have you watched a full video of mine from front to back? One of my live streams.
I just saw one video. Was it the whole? I think it was a whole video of some girl when you were.
He was ranking her. He asked her what her
asked her what she ranked herself.
I have a full 3-hour show that I do, and you watched a 7-minute clip. I challenge you and your friend to go back to my channel and watch the full 30-minute. Oh, now see, I'm not going to do this. Then this is the problem.
Destroyed. You didn't watch my 3-hour podcast, you fucking loser.
Like yourself, baby mamas, all of a sudden want to get stingy with the puss after you done gave your womb up before a ring. But then you want the high value men to put a ring on it before he gets it?
Who am I supposed to give it away?
You goddamn right you already did. Because here's the thing.
Baby mama owned. Baby mama absolutely owned. Baby mama don't want to give up the puss no more. Cringe. IncelTube is real. It's amazing. And I'm glad we're on this wave right now. We're learning a lot today. We're actually learning a lot that you guys didn't expect to learn.
There was an issue. I'm going to sum it up for your audience so that they don't like get bored or whatever. But there was an issue between us and Kevin Samuels and the time slot. He wanted a certain time slot. We abided by it. We said, all right, cool, bro, no worries. And we were pushing our show back for the time slot. Then I quickly realized that it wasn't necessarily about the time slot. He just kind of didn't want to work with us anymore.
The difference at this point in his story is the motivation. Apparently, he thinks it was mainly motivated by Kevin Samuels wanting to not be associated with them or share a fan base, which I think we can all understand why.
We were bringing on, young girl bimbos in Miami in person and roasting them. So it was a completely different lane. It wasn't the same. And Kevin was targeting mostly the African-American community. Maybe he felt like we're overlapping with him. That's fine. He's entitled to feel that way. But what ended up happening after that was, since we had this rift, right? He, when Abba and Preach started talking shit about us, he went ahead and did a collab with them right in the middle of the beef. Now, mind you, he had not done a collab with anybody that he had worked with prior to that. So He only did a collab with Alvin and Preach because he saw it as, okay, this is a chance to go ahead and attack Fresh and Fit while...
And then he reveals Kevin Samuels collabed with Abba and Preach at a pretty unfortunate time for them, pointing...
Oh, so based on what that guy said about the phone call, about how Abbott and Preach are a brand risk, or sorry, how Fresh and Fit are a brand risk in Kevin Samuels' words, and the fact that Kevin Samuels was asking him to push back the time slot, seems like Kevin Samuels is getting a bit Machiavellian about this. Seems like he was getting a little bit, you know, he was being somewhat of a puppet master, pulling the strings behind the scenes. Interesting. Is Kevin Samuels the only one of these guys that's not totally emotional and is like somewhat calculated? I'm not saying that he's like a genius or everything he says is base, but is he the only one of these guys that like has a little bit of strategy behind him? What did he die from? He was pretty young, right? He was like not even 50 years old. High blood pressure? Hypertension. Interesting. That's it? Did he have a heart attack or something? The police report describes that a woman met Samuels last night, came to his apartment and spent the night with him. Early that morning, Samuels complained of chest pains and she tried to help him. He was transported to the hospital where he then died. So yeah, it seems some kind of heart-related issue. Interesting. Poor fella. Poor fella. Fitness tip, make a journal. Seeing you've built a streak of workouts in progress feels great. Yeah, a journal is probably not a bad idea. I should probably do that. I'm not as diligent as I should be with the gym, to be honest. Which is why I've hit some serious plateaus before. But yeah, probably good. Probably good. The worst thing was, dude, when I had my wisdom teeth out, I couldn't work out for like a full 10 days straight. It was brutal.
Towards it being a calculated attack, kicking them while they're down. To me, I bet the real story is somewhere in between. If I were a betting man, I'd bet that Kevin Samuels probably was annoyed at the things that were said behind closed doors, rightfully so. Probably was also annoyed and felt like his lane was being encroached on, and arguably rightfully so. And Kevin Samuels was probably looking at them and thinking, oh hell nah, I can't have my name attached to these guys. I gotta be in music videos with Future and interviews with Nicki Minaj and the main
It seems like Kevin Samuels felt like he was owed something because he had gone on their show and promoted them early on, so he felt like he was owed that time slot, and I don't really buy into that, to be honest. I don't really buy into that. At the end of the day, nobody owns their audience. People want to watch someone else and make better content. Yeah, exactly. That's how it is, right? You can't demand that people don't stream or don't do content at some time period. I mean, I guess if you have that kind of relationship with someone, like if prior to that, you know, Kevin Samuels had given up his time slot for them, maybe it would be shitty for them to not do it back, but you know, I don't really like the idea that like, oh, this is my time slot, this is my audience. Like, it's just not up to you, you know?
I can't be co-signed with these kind of allegations, but I also think there was probably an aspect of fear of them overtaking him and jealousy as well. When this accusation was levied against Abba and Preach, saying that they're jealous of Fresh and Fit's success, and that's why they're attacking them, it didn't make sense because they're quite literally in two separate distinct lanes. And if anything, Abba and Preach could just make videos reacting to their drama. But FNF and Kevin Samuels had damn near a one-to-one audience at that point. They wanted to see women get roasted on live, and both provided that. So, because of that, I can see a personality type like Kevin Samuels also considering that when making his moves. But either way, Kevin Samuels cut ties with them at this point. And from here, everyone was against FNF. And it didn't seem like much could get worse. FBI, open up! Oh yeah, forgot about that. Allende. This is the man who really took it to another level. Allende, an ex-co-worker from Fresh and Fit, broke into the Fresh and Fit studio to confront Myron mid-podcast. This was must-see TV at the time. This really brought the Jerry Springer to YouTube at this point. This is probably Fresh and Fit's darkest hour, well, at least up to this point. Allende and his friend Larger were upset.
You don't want this to be your life. Okay. Even beyond the fact that obviously a guy is like breaking into their studio and acting kind of crazy on camera, you don't want your life to be your entire reason for people watching you to be watching the train wreck that is your personal life. This never ever ends well. It didn't go well for Ice Poseidon. You know, obviously he made some money off of it, but that doesn't mean that his personal life is good. It doesn't work out for streamers or content creators in general, when the entire appeal to watching their content is seeing what the next aspect of the train wreck is. That's not good for you. That's not good for you whatsoever. You do not want to be in this realm. Johnny Somali. Yeah, well, the difference with Johnny Somali, though, is Johnny Somali started being a train wreck and was very self-aware of it. Some guys, their interpersonal interactions will, or women, frankly, I mean, it doesn't matter. Their interpersonal interactions being so tumultuous and on shaky ground will lead to interactions like this happening consistently. And this will become the reason that people watch their content. But they don't really realize it because they're like, well, I'm still making money from it. So whatever, right? I'm still making a bunch of money. I'm still doing content. People still watch me. What's the big deal, right? Or maybe their views will even go up as a result of that, right? But the problem is, once again, the appeal becomes less about watching you and hearing what you have to say. The appeal to it becomes exclusively seeing the next fuck up that happens in your life, whether it's your fault directly or not.
Set for a myriad of reasons. Some smaller, some bigger, some valid, some not so valid. He had an issue with them not giving him credit for getting girls on the show, which I feel like is kind of reaching.
Me and Large met because I was bringing the girls on the podcast, and the entire time I'm working away to push this thing, to get these guys off the ground, to get these guys established and get the engine fucking going.
I mean, it's called the Fresh and Fit show, not the casting coordinator and photographer show. They also had an issue with Myron's integrity and behavior. Apparently, Myron wanted to edge him out of the podcast and get someone else to source girls because Allende couldn't be controlled. Now this one is very interesting, and I'll explain why. I originally wasn't too sure about this, because as someone who's employed and employs, there's times where someone's really good at their job, has things like reliability issues, attitude issues, and just general incompatibility with the vision or with the team. In these
What I don't understand is why this guy felt it was justified to confront Myron on the podcast. Was Myron shit-talking him publicly and that's why he felt the need? Or was he just so full of rage he felt the need to go on live and try to ruin the show to own them? Like, what was the deal here?
Cases, I might look for someone else to work with them or just give their job to someone else if it gets too much to deal with. So at first, I kind of sympathized with Myron and assumed maybe it was that. But Allende said something very, very illuminating.
Let me ask you guys a question. When you think about this for a minute, how many guys do you know that stutter? Just percentage-wise, out of 10 guys, how many of those guys would stutter? I could find 10 guys like this and not one of them would stutter. How the fuck is it that Myron finds himself around 3 guys that stutter? A team of 4 and 3 of them stutter. The point I'm making is that that's not a coincidence. Myron is an expert at preying on insecurity. He's an expert at finding people that are useful, that are skillful, but lack the confidence to get what they deserve, right? And what they're owed. And those are the people that he can exploit.
There's more later in this downfall video that supports Allende's point, but even with just this and what we know so far, I believe this is 100% true. Think about it, his entire main team. Who's Chris? A man with a stutter, overweight, and a drinking problem. Very clearly with low self-esteem and a punching
Jeez, just destroying this guy.
Bag to not just Myron, but Fresh as well. Who's Mo? Overweight, no stutter, but very clearly lacking in confidence and is a punching bag to Myron as well. And finally, who's Fresh? A punching bag to Myron, has a stutter and not the brightest tool in the shed. All this to say,
this is why it's always been confusing to me that Walter's even there. Like, what is the appeal to him being on the show? Like, it's not even just that he doesn't have interesting insider commentary, because he doesn't when he opens his mouth. But he's just not an entertaining guy. Like, he doesn't really say much of anything ever. He's pretty quiet most of the time. That's reaching? What do you mean that's reaching? You mean to say that he's like some kind of like emotional mastermind manipulator? I mean, I don't think this guy's saying he's building a cult. I think what he's saying is like Myron, partially because of his own insecurities and also because he wants a sense of control, is perfectly willing to hire exclusively people that are quote unquote beta males or are not willing to take charge around him so he can be the one dominant one around, right? Myron's goofy as hell. He wants people to believe he's a jock when he's a nerd. Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. Very common thing, you know. I mean, a lot of guys online who... I'll put it this way, okay? If you're the one guy who works out and is like willing to talk over someone a couple times a day, but you're in a room full of, you know, not so more submissive guys who, you know, aren't totally yelling all the time or more reserved, you're going to appear like you're like the hot-headed Chad jock in the cartoon TV show that is your life on the internet, right? You're going to appear that way. When in reality, you put that guy around a bunch of real athletes or, you know, genuinely dominant men. It's not going to be any comparison. It's not going to be any competition. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with being a guy who's not a totally annoying fucking cringe lord all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with being, you know, a guy who's maybe not as, you know, there's nothing inherently wrong with being a Lewis McClung type. I'll say that much, right? There's nothing inherently wrong with that. I'm certainly closer to Lewis McClung probably in personality, demeanor, temperament than I am, you know, somebody who's like the Chad or what. Like I'm just not like that, right? But when you're Myron, you know, surrounding yourself with a certain kind of person, you're going to appear to be a lot more dominant and Chad and base than you really are.
It seems like Myron's less interested in building a powerhouse podcast team and more interested in surrounding himself with the cast of people he can control. I mean, with half of them stumbling over their own words and barely keeping up, it's clear this was not a crew you'd recruit if you're after a polished, insightful podcast. But if what you're going for is control, well, then this...
Myron surrounds himself with darker skinned people to make himself look more white. In any other context, I'd be like, that sounds crazy, but the thing is, you are right. Myron sees himself as a white guy, and there's a lot of clips where he's like referring to himself as a white guy, or he's like us, guys like us, with like a room full of white guys. Like, he thinks that he is a white man.
Ragtag lineup is exactly who you look for. It's almost like he handpicked a team to make himself look sharper and more confident in comparison. Like he chose everyone based on their willingness to be bullied first and skill and expertise second. He's not leading because he's an expert guiding other talented minds. He's leading because they're so inept they have no choice but to follow. This makes it all too easy to see why Allende said he felt threatened. If we're to believe Allende's telling the truth and was so good at his job, we can also take a look at the personality of Allende, who seems to be a lot more self-assured and confident compared to the 3 others.
In fairness, we don't know that that's the case. We don't know all the private details behind the scenes of what their working relationship was like. So I would stray away from making, judgments that are too harsh with Allende specifically, but I get the point that this guy is making.
Compelling story, I can't lie. Because let's be real, it's hard to see any real value here beyond the fact that Myron gets to play the big fish in a small, very shallow pond. And sorry, Myron, I'm not exactly feeling generous enough to give you the benefit of the doubt here. Another issue Allende and Large had with Fresh and Fit was when Fresh and Fit hit 100,000 subscribers. They were set to have a party of some sort. If you guys know FNF and their milestone celebrations, they're all horrible, with no exception. Allende was the one who gave them the idea in the first place. They sold tickets for this event at $500 a pop.
Remember, this is a party to celebrate them getting 100,000 subscribers, and they're charging their supporters to come.
Base, dude. Base, what are you supposed to do? You got to rug the audience a little bit, dude. You got to squeeze them. Come on. That's what I would do. I will never have a party with my subscribers, but if I did, $500? That's extremely low. Come on, dude. I'm charging up the ass for that so no one shows up.
Right? Mind you, me and him, we had certain business dealings with them or what have you, but it was told on their podcast, this was before we found out anything about that we recently found out, it was told on their podcast that we were the reasons, called dead weight, we were the reasons as to why their party didn't go well, and they no longer wanted to cut ties with us and fire us even though we didn't work for them.
This predictably had its issues and people were scammed. FNF blamed all the shortcomings on these two.
And what do we find out? We find out that a group of people that had been to the party who paid hundreds of dollars to be there, at a minimum $100 to $500 to be there, that Myron that they wanted a refund because the party wasn't lit the way. They were promised that there would be a bunch of girls, certain type of drinks, a certain type of, aesthetic or whatever, and it wasn't.
Which they would have been.
They said on their platform, the Fresh and Fit people said on their platform that it was lit and all this, and they lied to all of you guys. The people that were there have screenshots, they have recordings and all that.
I mean, these guys are probably right, but also, what did you expect, right? You expect Fresh and Fit to throw the most badass party of all time just because they have some money, just because they have a big podcast. Is that really what you expect? I remember H3 saying that Fresh was actually the one with the money who was building and managing the business side. He's the actual entrepreneur of the two, and Myron is the talker, I think. I've always heard that, but I don't know why people say that. What do you mean building and managing? How much building and managing on the business side is it really to do? Is it just reaching out to guests? Is he their accountant or something? Is that it? I always hear people say that. Why do they say that? Why is that the impression that they have? What is the business side? What does it even mean? Myron said that Fresh is the money guy, but what does that even, you realize doing YouTube is not some kind of crazy financial calculation. It's simple, profit, loss, expenses. Okay, we spent this much money this month. This is our budget. We made this much money. I feel like the average person could just do, it's very simple math. It's not some crazy hard thing to understand.
The party was a failure. It was a failure, which is
I had fun though.
Dude, they have a whole studio. Yeah, I know they have a whole studio, but they make money on the podcast. They spend some money on the studio. Do you think there's some crazy oh my god, I'm hacking the financial system to pay for the studio? No, they just make money and they pay for the studio. That's it. It's not the most insane. You understand? It's just money in, money out. And it's not some impossible thing to do that. Fresh was the starting capital. Was that it? Maybe that was it. I don't know.
Me too, actually. Where was I going? Oh yeah, so the party was a failure, according to them, and a lot of the people that were there, and yet they tried to blame and pin it on us, to their subscribers. Now, we find out today, this magical little thing that the subscribers say that they contacted Myron, and when they were in contact with Myron, I think it was face-to-face, what happened? Yeah, face-to-face the next day, we find out that that when they asked for a refund, that Myron tells them basically, no, they're not getting a refund. And the reason that's why they're not getting a refund is because me and Allende, us two here, were the ones who collected the money, got the money, we basically stole the money.
So essentially all this stuff was bubbling up in the background and it all...
Oh, okay. So once the money was collected, he tried to blame it on these guys and then push them out for something that they're claiming they didn't do, is basically the situation here. Allegedly, we don't really know. You know what I mean?
All came out during the Abba and Preach beef. He goes on to list and honestly really prophesize and foreshadow a lot of...
It's spending the least money for the most profit. I know, but that's not an impossible thing to figure out. That's not the most difficult thing to figure out in the world. This is not some kind of thing you need business expertise on. Also, maintenance and tax stuff. Well, I mean, for tax, just hire a CPA, right? Why does one guy have to be taking half the money from the podcast, presumably, when you can just hire a CPA to do it for you for a fraction of the cost? Once again, I don't really get that. You just do your bookkeeping, you send it to the CPA tells you how much money you pay the government, does your tax return. It's not the most impossible thing in the world. It's not like, it's annoying as I get it, but it's not like, what's the CPA? An accountant.
Things that ended up taking place. The fact that all the staff followed Myron's lead and became
To be clear, with these guys, I haven't seen any receipts so far, so I don't know if what they're saying is even true.
outright douches to the girls. The fact that he doesn't actually care about the men he's helping. He hit the nail on the head, but it was because of this that Allende made the boneheaded decision breaking into the studio to confront him. Funnily enough, there was a conspiracy that Abba and Preach was the mastermind behind the whole break-in, but that was just hearsay. Allende and Abba both said that's not the case. That break-in was the talk of YouTube for a good few weeks, and Abba, Preach, and everyone else was making a killing reacting to it. Keep in mind, all these allegations were happening either simultaneously or in quick succession, one after another after another. This got so big, they had to respond comprehensively to all of them. They copped a plea deal once again and took a far different tone than they originally had when things were just starting out. It was 5 hours worth of responses. They maintained 20K views the entire 5 hours, which is insane. And they got decent reception to what they said, especially within their niche. Eventually, the allegations, they did die down, but the general hate towards Fresh and Fit and different, more general critiques continued and continued until
Right, they had a target on their back at this point because they become so unlikable. And whether or not those specific allegations were true or not, the audience was turning on them to the point that there was a market once again for the drama around them. So like every week, Abba and Preach could just pump out a new video about him mocking them, right?
Until yet another misstep and the downfall was taken. Fresh and Fit went on a copyright abuse rampage. I love how all these guys say they care about free speech, but always end up being the snowflakes they complain about. People didn't already hate them before, they surely did now. In the YouTube world, false copyright strikes are a cardinal sin. Rightfully so. You can end up getting someone's channel deleted and their livelihood taken. Now it's unlikely, especially the bigger the channel, but YouTube has a broken system and people like Fresh and Fit and the Fake and the Pretender abuse this. These guys know that the critiques against them are very real and thus very damaging. So instead of addressing them or I don't know, changing their actions, meh, too hard. I'll just try and silence it and then also turn around and complain about big tech and the Jews silencing me. Fresh and Fit was giving out copyright.
Yeah, this was an arc they went on. Because I remember at the beginning, like, okay, so back like, I don't know, 7, 8 to 10 years ago, right? Red Pill, when I first heard of Red Pill, my understanding was that Red Pill basically meant somebody who was like alt-right, you know, borderline neo-Nazi, that territory, right? Like racist, sexist, homophobic, you know, white people are being replaced, the Jews are orchestrating it all, right? That was my understanding of Red Pill. But then it kind of took on this new meaning in like 2020, 2021, where it was like Andrew Tate stuff. And initially it was just like this like male self-improvement thing partnered with like women are dumb and need to take responsibility for their actions. OnlyFans women are bad, stuff like that. And then it kind of evolved to the point where Myron was getting more and more extreme. Tate was getting more and more extreme, and it became a conversation about like the Jews.
Copyright strikes like it's Halloween candy. Channels, big or small, were getting hit. 20+% to Abba and Preach alone. But Fresh and Fit did not think too far ahead, because YouTube eventually told Fresh and Fit they have 7 days to revoke the copyright strikes, or their channel will be deleted. It was a beautiful display of poetic justice in the end.
This was one of the first things that got me on sort of the hate train for these guys, which was people were making videos criticizing Fresh and Fit. Fresh and Fit, the free speech advocates would then copyright claim their videos. They would DMCA them to take them down when the videos were clearly fair use. There's this really awesome clip where Myron went on Tim Pool's show to talk about this, and Tim Pool like actually kind of owned him.
Think about this. Today's topic.
Let's see if I can find the clip.
So this one comes straight from Tim Pool's channel.
For a lot of people who are super chatting, they're asking about vaguely about something that you guys are accused of doing that I don't know anything about, and they're super chatting as if I would know what it is. But I can ask you just this simple one. Adam Griffin says, "Can you ask why these clowns tried to take down Abba and Preach with fake DMCA strikes?"
What? So keep in mind here, Tim doesn't even know what they're talking about here. He doesn't even understand exactly what's going on. He's just asking a question.
You want to go into it?
Hey man, hold on. What's this guy's name?
Adam Griffin says, "Can you ask why these clowns?"
Yo, Adam Griffin, shout out to you. Because apparently this motherfucker paid money to tell Tim to ask the question. Hey man, listen, some of our fans, I appreciate you.
So Fresh and Fit, free speech warriors saying they're being censored by everyone, right? Pro freedom of speech. As soon as they get into hot water, they start going through videos where people are clipping their content, like Abba and Preach, and filing false copyright strikes on their channel, abusing the copyright system to silence them.
Fake DMCA strikes.
What? You want to go into it?
Dude, it's just not something I want to talk about. You know,
I'm trying to remember. I would say blue, like I'm trying to think like which video was.
Oh yeah.
brutal. I want to see the actual clip where he has to address it because I know it's in here.
Defamation and using our content, and there's a lot of people that talk about us on internet. So basically, we have a lot of people that talk about us on internet, and some of it is slander, some of it is defamation, and using our content in their videos, and we're like, okay, cool. We've waited out for a while for you to stop. You're still doing it. So, you know what? Cool. Now we're going to take legal action against you because obviously you're attacking our character and our integrity.
Okay. So if somebody is defaming you, you have a right to take them to court for defamation, not for a copyright issue. These things are separate. You cannot legally go after someone for abusing your copyright unless they have abused your copyright, unless they have stolen your intellectual property. All that Abba and Preach did is they took clips that were funny or cringy from your show, and they then criticized you on their own channel, which is fair use. If you want to take them to court for defamation, take them to court for that. Saying we went legal is not a umbrella term for everything involving the law. What these guys did is they abused the copyright system to silence their critics.
So at that point, hey, it's all fair game.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Okay, so I want you guys.
No, it's not all fair game, actually. You're a free speech warrior, dude. You say you're a free speech warrior and you have a mental breakdown and get butthurt over people shit talking you online?
Just remember this. Let's keep hearing.
Simply put, if someone breaks into your store, right, and takes a broom off, you have a hardware store, takes a broom off the shelf and starts beating you with your own broom and won't leave and does it for 4 months, what are you going to do?
Okay, dude. Yeah, good one. So you can see very, very good explanation here for that one.
I'm dying, bro.
Well, you can't file a DMCA over it.
Apparently not. You can't.
Yeah. So they just get it reversed or what?
Yeah, it's a long story, but
it's not a long story. It's not.
Dude, it's a long story. They clearly just don't want to talk about it. He knows he's in the wrong. And even Tim Pool is like, you're retarded, dude.
And won't leave and does it for 4 months, what are you going to do?
Well, you can't file a DMCA over it.
Apparently not.
Absolutely owned. Absolutely felted, owned, destroyed, mogged.
So they just get it reversed or what?
Yeah, it's a long story, but basically.
Keep in mind, filing copyright strikes on YouTube, whether they're justified strikes or not, can lead to someone's channel getting entirely deleted, right? If you file 3 copyright claims on someone's channel, and you can choose actively, by the way, you can choose when you copyright claim someone, you can choose like, I want to take the money, you can choose, I want the video blocked worldwide, or you can even choose, I want them to get a strike on their channel to put their channel in bad standing. What these guys were doing were trying to get the Abbott and Preach channel, at the very least, financially penalized for shit talking them. And at the very worst case scenario, get their channel deleted to get their entire business ruined. Not very good. Not very good, chat.
This was so bad that Tim Pool, yes, the guy confirmed to have been paid by Russia, who espouses all the same things Fresh and Fit do, even called them out on their behavior.
And won't leave and does it for 4 months, what are you going to do?
Well, you can't file a DMCA over it.
Apparently not.
Marlon was comparing people making videos critiquing him as someone breaking into his store and hitting him with his own broom. No comment. If you think this is as bad as it gets, I wish that were true. Oh, buddy.
And it just shows how insecure these people really are. People who talk about how it's important to be masculine, to live your own life, independent of others, to speak truth to power, to be based, to not get emotional. He got emotional. He got emotional about the fact that Abba and Preach were making fun of him, and he had a breakdown about it.
But it gets worse. The next big controversy went viral not just on YouTube, but on Twitter, specifically Black Twitter, one of the scariest places to go viral at ever.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gone viral on Black Twitter. I'm going to try to avoid that for as long as possible.
And it was because of Myron's stated preferences. When asked about a dating app called Blacked, he said this.
Oh, it's funny, I never used that one, bro, but hey, man.
I mean, hey, bro, if you want to date a bunch of Shaniquas, go for it, man.
LaQuisha.
Yeah, like, me and Fresh aren't really down with the brown like that. Man. We ain't night right.
We're not down with the brown like that. Dude, you are literally brown. This is what I'm talking about. This guy thinks he's white. This guy thinks he's Aryan. This guy thinks they're letting him in the ethno state. Newsflash, you're not let in Hyperborea.
Writers.
Nah,
so
I'm good.
Sometimes if they're, red bone, but like in general, me and Fresh don't dabble in the dark, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
And people lost their mind. And then afterwards, after the backlash, Myron's like, listen, what's wrong with having a preference?
When it comes to dating and your personal preferences, no one bats an eye. When women say I want a man that's 6 feet tall, makes a certain amount of money, blah, 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 those are considered preferences. But if I say, hey, man, I don't date black girls like that. Oh, God.
You hate black women.
His defense was, it's just my preference in relation to preferring a certain race over another. It definitely does raise eyebrows, but whether or not it's racist is a little bit more nuanced. Attraction isn't necessarily a choice. It's often shaped by personal preference.
I mean, I don't know if it's even just, maybe I'm wrong about this, to me, I don't really care if someone has preferences. Who cares? You don't have to date black women. You don't have to date white women. Like, just date whoever you want. That's your choice. I think people take issue with the way that he said it. I think that's probably it, especially when he's speaking to a largely black audience, you know?
Preferences, experiences, and even societal influence. All things we don't necessarily control. So if someone tends to find people of a certain skin color more or less attractive, that's one thing. And I do feel like it's common to have that to varying degrees, one way or the other. But when you take it to the level of I don't date black women, period, it's a whole different ballgame. Now you're not just talking.
I mean, you can, if you want to make that choice, you can make that choice. If you want to say, I don't want to date black women, I mean, that's your prerogative, right? I don't think you can really criticize him for that. I feel like the way he said it is probably why people are more upset, which in fairness, he did say it in a pretty funny way, but yeah.
Talking about a preference, you're outright excluding an entire group of people based solely on the skin color. It's like looking at two identical resumes, same qualifications, same experience, but you toss one aside strictly because they're black. It's a pretty clear-cut case of racism, no? To be fair,
I mean, the thing is, like, some people are just not attracted to people with darker skin. Like, that's just the case. That's the case.
Myron did say he preferred lighter skinned women, but he also did say he wasn't down with the brown and I don't dabble in the dark, which kind of points me in the direction of it being a rule rather than a
I don't dabble in the dark, dude.
Preference. Black Twitter did not take kindly to this. Yet another big hit in their reputation in the mainstream. But within their niche and their subscribers, this was par for the course. And most of his fans agree with what he said, so nothing really happened. The next big controversy was much like the last. Very damaging for the greater YouTube and Twitter audience, but not so damaging in their own niche, like the Abba and Preach beef was. This one was levied against them by H3H3, using the info given to them from a girl Myron was trying to get with after the show. Basically, she stayed after the show because she forgot her wallet. In the interest of time, the whole situation was blown way out of proportion. The girl just came off as someone who was looking for clout. Her story and her actions completely
I do remember this happening. It seemed like H3 was kind of reaching.
Didn't align. She'd say, I didn't want to see him or stay with him, but then ended up in his house. She was so turned off and disinterested. But when he told her to go get mouthwash, she went and did it and then came back. If I listened to her commentary and not her actions, it would be a completely different thing. It was such a bad allegation that even Abba and Preach themselves called it out and defended Fresh and Fit. Despite this, the girl herself even said Myron did not assault her when Ethan tried to goad her into saying it.
I really didn't like this. I really didn't like that. It seemed like Ethan was trying to push these allegations as far as possible to get one over on Fresh and Fit, which in fairness, I don't really like Fresh and Fit at all. But it seemed like Ethan was being very irresponsible in this case with trying to make the situation something that it was not and goad this girl into being, you know, like, oh, it was some kind of like sexual assault or thing. And I found that, I mean, cringe is not even the word for it, you know, to say cringe is an insult to cringe. It was irresponsible, gross, borderline slanderous, like trying to get this girl to push something that she didn't, you know, necessarily want to push, even though she herself was being somewhat opportunistic in this case, right? It's no secret that Ethan doesn't have a great track record when it comes to allegations, so yeah. This was at the peak of, I think, the Leftovers podcast and Ethan collabing with Hassan. I wonder how he would approach this now. Maybe he would approach it differently, but it was very bad the way he handled this, dude.
This is a very disturbing story, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting, but at that point,
I think he may have
I think like the worst thing you could say about Myron in this story was like he wouldn't get her an Uber. He wouldn't pay for her Uber home or something, which is like, who cares?
Assaulted you. I mean, at this point,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that, but like, again, like, it was my experience.
He also implicationed you a little bit too. The way they split you guys up, and
yeah,
I think you got implicated.
I remember him trying to dox Amaranth's boyfriend. It was just some random dude. Did that happen? Did that actually happen? That's crazy.
I think you got Dennis systemed. If you know what that is.
Yeah. No.
Oh, okay.
Dennis system. So Dennis system, if you don't know, is a joke about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Just to pull this up so I don't misquote anything.
So how many restraining orders does the waitress have?
A lot, dude. I mean, she's been irritated with me. She's like, you got me fired from the Oldies Rock Cafe. You're gonna get me fired from the coffee shop.
This is incredible. You gotta listen to this message. Come here, seriously. This chick is so in love with me, it's crazy.
Hi, Dennis. It's Kaylee. I was just calling to let you know that I hope you die. You are obviously a terrible person with no regard for anyone but yourself. I never, ever want to see you again, you steaming pile of horse shit. Go to hell.
Bro, that's amazing. That's the best one yet. It's a really good one, isn't it?
What are you talking about? She hates your guts.
Dude, this chick is so in love with me, she doesn't even know it.
They don't get it because you haven't explained it to them.
Oh, guys, I have a system, a foolproof system for getting any chick's undying love and devotion for life.
What the hell are you talking about, dude?
I'm talking about the Dennis system.
This is the greatest show of all time, by the way. If you haven't seen this show is fucking fire. I put off watching it for a long time, but I finally watched, I think I probably watched at least 10 seasons of it. It's absolute, pure, unadulterated Kino. Absolute Kino. Based on, dude.
Okay, sorry.
But Ethan kept going with it. He already.
But basically, the point that Ethan's trying to make is that, like, he's trying to make the case that Myron's being, like, a little bit rapey or, like, pushing things a little bit. You know what I mean? He's trying to, like, make him seem like a creepy guy, basically. That's the point of this.
Doesn't like those guys, which don't get me wrong, neither do I. But that's all the more reason we should talk about what he actually did, like the fact he's so desperate to get with girls from the podcast. But yeah, Myron debunked everything. He eventually dropped text that did not align with what she said.
So she contacted me. So how would I demand to get her number if she was the one that contacted me first? Right? So she's saying...
Why is there just a picture of Tim Pool there? Oh, look at my twinsy.
Oh, I didn't talk with him. I didn't text him back. Just go play it through real quick, Chris, and we're gonna analyze parts of this conversation later on.
Shout out to Tim Pool, man.
Shout out to our guy Tim Pool. But look, she's not texting me. Look at that. That looks like a conversation to me.
Wow.
Okay?
True.
That looks like a conversation to me.
God damn, we got about an SS.
Again, I don't like these two.
It was clear she was trying to save face and seem like she wasn't interested when she very obviously was for whatever reason. Even though some people, including Abba and Preach, were on FNF's side for this, they're the most hated. So we want to believe they did bad even when they might not have. There's still a subset of people, namely H3H3 and their fans, who maintain he did all this. By this point, Fresh and Fit were reaching their peak or getting close to it. The name is widely known. In fact, I'd wager that if I spoke to the average...
I think this is a phenomenon you see a lot online where someone becomes hated for whatever reason, and as a result, people come out of the woodwork to expose them for things that don't matter, are overblown, or are completely retarded, right? People jump on that bandwagon. And the problem you have with that is then you have content creators who know they can cash in on that situation by propagating and pushing these false claims, or maybe dubious, maybe less than false, maybe it's like kind of a middle of the road thing, but they blow it out of proportion because they know that there's an audience that will already jump on and agree with that take because that person is very hateable, and there's a market that's created for that. And what it does is it ultimately does a disservice to true, actual allegations out there of misconduct, and also downplays criticisms from Fresh and Fit, because Fresh and Fit can then be like, oh, look at all of our haters. They're all crazy people. They're making false allegations, and they have an excuse to throw that all under that blanket term. It muddies the waters. It poisons the well. Not a good thing to do. Bad conduct.
Person, they'd probably know Fresh and Fit, at least heard of them, over Abba and Preach. They lost 50,000 subscribers, had gotten that back and then some. Broken into the mainstream many more times with collabs with the Tate Brothers, Brittany Renner, DJ Academics, and other viral videos and kickouts. They were doing what they do best and getting rewarded for it. The whole time, Abba and Preach had actually forgiven Fresh and Fit and stopped uploading on them. Just kidding, they were uploading constantly.
Yeah, Louis McClung is a perfect example, right? Louis McClung knows that because Dream is hated, he won't get a lot of pushback no matter what he says about Dream, so he's able to make a poorly researched, borderline, actually I wouldn't even say borderline, slanderous video about Dream and his friends, and people won't give him the pushback that he deserves on it. He knows that.
And getting anywhere from 800,000 views to 1.5 million views per video. Myron, although he ignored it for the most part, was pissed. In his eyes, Abba was damaging his brand, cultivating a hate base against him, and eating off him all at the same time. This anger and animosity that honestly was probably a calculated and predicted outcome by Abba finally bubbled over in what I like to call the full-blown self-destruction of the ethic.
I honestly don't know that it was a predicted outcome or calculated by Abba. Maybe I'm wrong. He doesn't seem like he's the puppet master, so to speak. It feels like he just more like realized that Fresh and Fit were being really dumb and decided to make videos about them, and realized that it was a market that people liked, and he was, oftentimes spitting game in regards to them. So, he just kind of capitalized on that. I don't know that he went into his interactions with Myron in the first place with the knowledge that it could turn into some kind of thing he could make videos about for years. And to be clear, he is still able to make videos about Fresh and Fit. I mean, at this point, more people get more views talking about Fresh and Fit than Fresh and Fit get. Abbott and Preach's channel, you scroll down here, right? Fresh destroys Myron in debate, 1 million views. 1 million views on this video. Fresh and Fit is not getting views like that.
The NEF podcast. Up until now, they've at least attempted to course correct on every mistake. The allegations, the false strikes, the lies, the incongruence with their teachings and actions. Everything did hurt them, but nothing gave them a fatal blow. But this one right here, this was the beginning of the end, no doubt. Myron invited two people who like to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people to keep it safe on YouTube. Both grifters, both banned off of YouTube, and both extremely racist. I think you're seeing the picture being painted here. They went on a 30-minute racist rant, calling Abba and Preach monkeys, making fun of their looks and anything in between.
What the Yo, every time
Zerka himself partook in some good old-fashioned neo-dog whistling, saying Preach needs to evolve and he's overdosing on the warrior gene.
Whoa. Reach, you're overdosing on the warrior gene, bro.
And other lovely things just...
That's wild. I mean, that is entertaining, but that is wild. That is crazy. That's fucking edgy, dude. That's fucking edgy.
Just like that. It was so bad, even Sneeko seemed uncomfy at times.
Yo, Reach, I don't even believe in this theory, but you gotta evolve.
You gotta evolve?
You gotta evolve, bro. No. I'm not racist.
Ooh. Dude. Okay. Even Sneeko's like, whoa. Dude.
But wait, there's more. But before that, you need some context. These guys didn't just ran.
So racist, they don't even know what they mean. I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one before explaining the warrior gene meme. But you know, you can look it up. You can look it up.
Randomly reveal their racist side on a random Monday. No, sir. They were overtly racist often. Dog whistling even more often at every race, but especially black.
Okay, whatever. I'll explain it. I don't care. The joke that they're making, not the joke I'm making, the joke they're making is that the belief in evolution is that humans evolved from apes. So they're playing on the tried and true formula of calling black people monkeys. The warrior gene is the belief that there is a gene that exists inside of black people that makes them warriors, meaning more aggressive, meaning more physically dominant versus mentally submissive. Submissive is not the right term. It links into like race realism shit with like the belief that certain races have higher IQs than others. That's what these jokes come to, right? It's like a deep racist joke, right? It's like playing into beliefs that black people are retarded, basically. That's what it's playing into. That's basically what they believe. And that's why Myron is saying that. So there you go. There you go.
People and Jewish people. Myron, Sneeko, and Zerko look up to this 26-year-old we'll call NF. You see, NF has some less than savory views. I'll just call them some Kanye in 2022 views. His ideas summed up are Semitic people, and by association, black people, and every color of people for that matter, is what's wrong with the country. Full stop. Don't ask too many questions.
Is there like, do you just not say Nick Fuentes' name? Is that like passe on YouTube? You can't say that. Actually, the warrior gene is a term not only applied to black men, but men in general, sometimes women. I mean, yeah, but that's like in the way that Myron is talking about it, you can see what he's talking. Like, Myron is not saying what you're saying. Myron is not saying what you're saying. Myron is saying it in a very racist, like pseudoscientific race realist way. That's what he's talking about.
Because it's not meant to be a rational thought, grounded in reality.
And Myron is a brown guy, but he's self-hating and sees himself as a white guy. So that's why, you know, he's talking about this stuff, right?
Anything besides a mixture of cope and hatred and a want to feel like you know something the rest of the world doesn't know. So I know, you might be wondering, wait, a black guy co-branding with the Latino guy to talk about how that black guy is the worst thing on earth? Yeah, don't try to understand it. Myron doesn't even understand it. NF, his whole MO is plausible deniability, right? He can't outright say it, but he'll say every single talking point. He doesn't believe in the number of specific people killed during the you-know-what. Yes, the most documented and recorded event in world history. Yeah, it's wrong. He knows better. He also thinks that people of color are less than, lower IQ, and criminals. He wants an ethno-state, and he thinks the messianic people are at the head of it all, trying to complete their ultimate plan, which is undermine the white race and world domination. Myron has behind the idea of
brown neo-Nazi. You don't see that every day, but they do exist out there. They do exist. The brown neo-Nazis, they are a kind of person, okay? They think they'll be let into the ethno-state, essentially. Newsflash, they will not be. As the president, I can say they will not be.
Racist to everyone, so it's fine. NF specifically says he's just a race realist and he deals in the facts of the world. And he loves everyone and he's a Christian. I guess I missed the passage in the Bible where Jesus said, "Thou shalt hate all Jews. Thou shalt create an ethno-state." I was more familiar with when a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. And the foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, but you are foreigners in Egypt. Man.
So this arc is when Myron began getting more and more politically extreme. Right? More and more politically extreme. And, you know, obviously he was kind of rewarded with that in the short term because there's people who are like, this is funny, this is crazy, let's look at this, right? It's memes. There's people who are genuinely into that stuff who are like based, whatever, red pilled. But when you do that, you kind of start alienating the more normal people in your audience and you only have the most schizophrenic people who are on the super, super far right. And you kind of, on top of that, there's also consequences that can come from platforms. Like I believe the Fresh and Fit channel was demonetized on YouTube. But even beyond that, the audience starts splitting up and you get people who aren't as deep into that getting involved, people who aren't as deep into that leaving your channel because they're like, I just wanted to watch him talk about women, right?
Probably some Jewish psyop. But yeah, there's 3 rules, guys. So now you understand the backstory, you understand who they look up to, and you understand why they're acting like this. Never ask a woman her age, never ask a man his salary, and never ask an NF why, if it's really just about race and what the racists do, and not the racists themselves, why can we not just kick out every criminal and low IQ person of any race? So yeah, now back to where we were in the timeline. It was after this stream that came another stream, and it was somehow worse. They used every slur in the book. All 3 of them were there, and wearing a hood over his head and spamming the N-word was Myron. I don't even want to play it because I know YouTube will not take too kindly to it. It was that bad. So it was all laughs and insults and giggling and roasting at this point. And this lasted a good 2 months. The title of the video that Abba responded to was the end of Fresh and Fit. It wasn't so much a question, but rather a statement.
And guys, we the channel has been kicked off the YouTube partner program. I shouldn't be admitting this, but saving children, right? That was great, but saving you guys is better.
Wait, what? Saving children is great. Saving you guys is better. What does that mean?
But rather a statement.
And guys, we the channel has been kicked off the YouTube partner program. I shouldn't be admitting this, but saving children, right? That was great, but saving you guys is better.
What does children have to do with anything? Oh, he was a U.S. Marshal. Okay. I get it. Yeah, because he was, I don't know if he was technically a Fed, but he was a government employee. So that's what he's talking about, right? Because he used to work for the Feds. So he's saying he likes being a content creator more than he liked being a federal agent.
Yeah, man, this is tough, bro.
They were kicked off the YouTube partner program. 98% of their revenue and their most reliable source of income has been destroyed, and along with that, their growth. What incentive does YouTube have to promote your channel and your videos if you're not making them money anymore? So everything.
It's not only that, but also, I mean, you pose a brand risk, right? Like, ultimately what happens here is you do, really controversial things politically, articles get written about it. These articles are written by journalists with mainstream media connections to these platforms and easy ways to contact advertisers. They reach out. YouTube is like, oh, well, I don't want to cause another ad boycott. And they've been very paranoid about that ever since then. So what they're going to do is they're going to demonetize your channel entirely so you can't make money. There was a time period when I feel like Fresh and Fit might have been like, depending on when, the time period is, because like the political tides and what's acceptable and what's not in the mainstream culture kind of shifts. Like there was a time period when I think they would have been outright banned for that. Instead, they got demonetized on YouTube, which, to be clear, I don't support censorship. I don't support demonetization unless they're calling for political violence. I would not say that they should, violence in general. I don't think they should have their YouTube channel demonetized or anything like that. But, that is the reality we live in, where that is one thing that will happen as a result, right? That will happen as a result, unfortunately.
Everything from their traction to their relevancy began to dry up. And for what? To tap dance and insult black people? To wake up the masses to the evil confederation of secret underground messianic people that everyone has been fooled by besides, of course, Myron and Fresh. Yeah, not worth the loss of 70,000 USD monthly if you ask me. Maybe my priorities are just messed up. Everyone with a functioning brain knows this, even people like Fresh. You see, at this point, facts are starting to show in the relationship between Myron and Fresh. Up until now, Fresh just did whatever Myron said, no questions asked. The extent of his deviation from Myron's orders would be when Myron would talk about how tricking is bad and all women in Miami are promiscuous and for the streets. Fresh would, of course, trick on women and wife up those same Miami girls, and to save face, he'd say, me and Myron don't agree on everything. But now, Fresh just lost a big chunk of his revenue. That's all his cars, his rented Lambos, his penthouse, his jewelry. That's literally him. His only substance was that money. Add on the fact that Myron was the one who was mostly obsessed with the conspiracies, and he really was the one to lead the charge into the alt-right. Fresh kind of felt like Myron led them down a path that wasn't good for them, and he was right. While Myron at least acted like he cared about anything more than just money, stating saving children was good, but it's better to be saving you guys. Fresh didn't offer anything past frustration about free speech.
I think at some point there was free speech where it was like, okay, you know what? Say what you got to say. We won't crucify you. But nowadays, free speech is kind of like, is it even a thing? I mean, not really.
This is a symptom of...
Sometimes it is hard for me to tell with some of these guys like Fresh and Fit if they're just like pure grifters or if they do believe some of what they say. I feel like Myron probably does believe in a lot of the conspiracies he throws out there, especially because after he got demonetized on YouTube, which to be clear, you can get back in the partner program with good behavior. Instead of like being on his best behavior and reeling it in a little bit, he went further and further into that kind of stuff. If you look at his Twitter, he tweets some really crazy stuff. So I think he probably does believe it. I don't think he's lying about his beliefs, to be honest. That's my impression anyway. Now, he does exaggerate them, and he definitely will do certain things to make more money. But I don't know that every conspiratorial belief he has is a total farce. Could be wrong, but that's kind of my interpretation of events here.
of Myron controlling for controllability, yes man capabilities, and insecurity when hiring people. The people that he hires are just not going to be the best at their job. Fresh clearly didn't get the memo of we're supposed to be sad about the fact that we can't help men, not that we're losing money. Because at this point, that's their whole grip. But yeah, while everyone on the outside is laughing at FNF and dancing on their AdSense grave, their fans were rallying around them, donating through other sources more than ever before, and just trying to support them in every way they possibly can. Me personally, I say good riddance to all that money. They were completely fine with people losing their livelihoods during the DMCA strike era. They were talking to Abban Preach reckless, saying,
that's true. I mean, I don't want to cheer on the loss of their own income still, but, you know, maybe I would if I hated them a little more, or if they personally had gone after me or something, maybe I'd be cheering it on. But yeah, I will say that, you know, they kind of did, you know, karma did wrap back around to get them in the end for one reason or another. Karma doesn't always happen right away, but I do think that karma is a real thing. And generally, I think that people with bad behavior do get punished. So yeah, I think that these guys kind of flew too close to the sun, kind of an Icarus analogy, which is, you know, an analogy often used for YouTubers in their careers, but I think there is truth to that in this particular case, because Fresh and Fit got so big off of a trend that was bound to die, and they probably would have had to ride it into the sunset either way, because the red pill trend was going to die anyway, but they got so big so fast, and they pretty quickly squandered it all within just a couple of years. Their heads got a little too big. They thought they could get away with saying anything and doing anything on a platform that they don't own, that they are not the master of. They thought that they could get away with shitting on anyone they wanted because their egos got so big that they assumed that, you know, it would never bite them in the ass. It did. It did.
We're going to lap you guys like they're completely untouchable.
Guarantee you, next year, this time, we're going to lap you.
Few moments later.
The channel has been kicked off the YouTube partner program.
So I'm not going to lose sleep over this. But even still, though the downfall had definitely started and is well on its way, they still had the chance and opportunity to course correct. By now, their growth was stunted, no doubt. Most people who could have been a fan had already heard of FNF and are either a fan or never will be. Their style was getting a bit stale. People grew tired of the same questions, leading to angry kickouts, and the competition was starting to innovate in their own right, hosting debates, treating girls like humans, having girls who aren't just the average Miami thought, and more. One big draw was their guests too. Understand, this wasn't the time of old where Fresh and Fit had the mainstream attention they enjoyed. They were a clear and obvious brand risk, and thus, good brands and names stayed far, far away. The Whatever podcast wasn't as bad, so they could actually get some self-respecting people on the show, both women and men guests. It's only so many times you can watch the newest scammer on Money Monday, or watch the same out-of-touch grandpa talk about his book for the 50th time, or watch the same bald guy cosplay as a pimp, businessman, and a gang leader all in one. It got old real fast, and even at that, they still had their core base. Their biggest supporters, if I were to guess, were coming from the men who were fully bought into what they were saying and looked.
I mean, they have a core base, but that core base will dwindle with time, right? Even they will get bored over time. Like, the core base that some content creators will always have is not going to be the same people for all of time. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure you guys do it. You've probably done it with me. You do it with other content creators. You start watching a content creator, you watch them for a little while. Eventually, you get kind of bored or tired, or you just forget about it and move on to another content creator because nobody wants to watch the same exact thing over and over and over again. So you have to innovate. But that core base of people, even if you're only maintaining that core base, that smaller viewership, there's always going to be viewers cycling in and out and in and out because that's just, you know, human tendencies to get bored with certain things and not be as comfortable with what they're watching at a certain point in time, right? But Fresh and Fit, it seems like their core base is just dwindling down further and further and further, and they're not really getting enough people to replace that core base.
See these guys for life advice, women advice, and just look up to them in general. They watch everything from their scam.
Like, realistically, how long can you hate on women while also trying to get them before it looks like hypocrisy? I mean, it's not only that. It's also just like, it just gets boring. Like, it just gets boring to see them try to recreate the same clip 20 times where they say something to a woman and she says something dumb and they're like, oh, owned, bitch. You have too high standards. You're a dumb thought, right? Like that, it just gets old. It just gets fucking old, right? Like, even the way that they hate on women gets old with time. You got to get a little more philosophical with it. You got to, you know, you got to get some bars behind it. You got to make some rap songs maybe to switch things up.
Money Mondays, they're after hours shows. The next free group just wants to watch the Jerry Springer-esque moments in the after hours episodes. While the first group is very obviously smaller, they were the cash cow, the whales, the ones who were willing to break the most bread for these guys they look up to. That's exactly who you don't want to piss off. And of course, they did just that. Fresh, who already was the sidekick of the duo, who no one took seriously, got into some heat. I made a full video detailing this, so I will not be touching on this fully. Link to everything's in the description. But basically, Fresh, who was first in a debacle with a girl named Miranda, more info also in that video, got played the hell out of while he coped about her liking him for him. He did not learn his lesson and turned around and did the same thing with the...
This is the one he knocked up, or almost knocked up. I don't totally remember. There's some kind of pregnancy scare, though.
Sugar baby from China by the name of Jin Chen. Except this time, he got her pregnant, allegedly. No one really cared about that. It's Fresh. We expect him to be brazenly incongruent. But Myron, we expect at least a step above. But in this scenario, Myron defended Fresh. Fresh just went against every last thing they espouse. Don't take a girl from Miami seriously. He did so. And she was an escort to boot. Won't trick on women. He bought her an expensive bracelet. Paid her rent for some time. And that's only what we know. Don't knock up one of these bimbos. And that's exactly what he did, allegedly. Worse yet, they both weren't taking accountability for it. Fresh and Myron were coping. The flip was quick, decisive, and brutal. The Fresh and Fit...
Just like with the Donovan Sharp guy, who was shitting on single mothers all the time and then dated and married one, right? It's the same exact thing. These guys are complete hypocrites. They're complete hypocrites. And you can expect everyone to be a hypocrite to an extent. Not everybody's perfect. You know, people will obviously say one thing and then make exceptions for other people that they like. You know, not everybody is completely consistent with their principles. I think it's good to get close to being consistent with your principles if that's something you value, but nobody's going to be perfect all the time, right? But with these guys, like, it's such a betrayal of their entire core value. The only thing they talk about is women and how women take advantage of men, how you have to be an alpha male. You don't want to be beta bucks. You don't want to be the soy guy, right? You want to be a fucking Chad. They were all full of shit. Isn't Myron married to someone who was a single mother? I don't know about Myron.
Reddit that was slowly getting more and more poison against them fully became an anti-fan.
Never betray the persona. You can't do the thing people know you for not doing, or just make it not be a persona. Make it be how you actually are, right? Don't hold yourself up to unrealistic expectations and build an audience out of it when you yourself are not holding yourself up to the standards. Just don't have a persona. Just be you.
Fan haven.
Or I guess if you're going to have a persona, do a really good job of hiding your other shit. But I feel like most of the time it comes out.
Prior to this, anything pro-Fresh was disliked to hell. And now, it was hate for both Myron and Fresh. When Myron used to enjoy some level of support from them, but now, the core fan base, the guys donating thousands of dollars to call women low value and talk about how high value they are, knowing damn well they'd sell their undying souls for a hug from one of these girls. Well, now they're starting to think, wait, this is a bit inconsistent even for me. And the support slowly dwindled. It all came to a head when they did a response stream to the allegations. With the pent-up rage from Abba and Preach continually making videos at their expense, the humiliation Fresh just put the show through, the ever-dwindling support, both monetarily and generally, from their fans, and probably a sprinkle of PTSD from the last big controversy that the whole internet was speaking about regarding them, Myron was not happy. It started with Myron calling Abba since he still had his cell phone and asking him to put some gloves on, taking him up on the offer from years ago at this point to box Preach.
Put the gloves on. Back up what you gotta say with your fists.
Conveniently, he only wanted to box Abba, who never challenged him to a fight, and not Preach, who did challenge them, and probably would beat the brakes off it. That wasn't all that was addressed in this. You see, Myron is kind of known for being what some call loyal, but I call it...
I feel like this is just a bid for desperation because their views are dying, and they're like, okay, well, now let's reignite an old beef that had a lot of attention on it to get a little bit of a momentary monetary injection while we try to figure out what that next step is.
Stupid. He prefers loyalty into blindly defending people at the expense of everything, no matter what, including but not limited to criminals and people who wouldn't do the same for you, i.e. Fresh. The only thing Fresh is thinking about is money, women, and coconuts in Barbados. No joke, that's all he can store up there. But Myron, being as short-sighted as he's been proven to be, loses his mind at the people rightfully calling Fresh out in what you can only call man-child's meltdown.
You know, it really bothers me when people talk about my friends, bro. Like, y'all don't get it. Like, it really does.
I'm curious, is there anyone in chat who was ever like a consistent viewer of the Fresh and Fit podcast? Have any of you guys ever been like a fan of Fresh and Fit or any of this Red Pill stuff? There has to be like a few of you out there who watch some of this stuff at some point in time, right? I love people says yes. Most people say no. I still watch them. Bilbert, what about them? What about their content makes you like them, I guess is my question. Or are you just trolling? W. Myron? Okay. I was a fan of Andrew Tate. What about Andrew Tate made you a fan of him out of curiosity? And I'm not trying to do this as a gotcha. I'm just genuinely curious. Because when I first saw Andrew Tate, even, I thought he was kind of an interesting guy. You know, I had the guy disease where I saw that, you know, he, in a very gay way, when I say guy disease, he had a bunch of cool cars. I was like, oh, dope. Cool. Based. The sex trafficking? Based, dude. Okay. I used to like their content because they would say a lot of true things, but they went off the deep end. Andrew Tate was just funny and a good speaker. Yeah, he is pretty funny. Andrew Tate is pretty funny. I was into MGTOW when my girlfriend cheated on me. Eventually I grew out of it. Yeah, I think that's definitely probably the case for a lot of guys. They get wronged by one girl and they get into MGTOW stuff because they're like, oh, well, you know, this isn't just me. This is a bunch of other guys. There's a sense of camaraderie. All women are like this. But, you know, eventually, ideally, if you want to become a better person, you have to grow out of that. Not to say you shouldn't be mad at your girl for cheating on you, but it's more to just say that, like, your one experience shouldn't inform your, ideally, you know, I understand being upset, but shouldn't ideally long-term inform your understanding of the world at large. I used to watch Crowder back when I was 16, 17. Yeah, but in fairness, Crowder, like, I watched a little bit of Crowder in high school, but Crowder's not really a red pill guy. He's more just like a conservative type dude, right? Tate's Hulk Hogan versus gorgeous trans woman monologue was particularly funny. That is a good one. That is a good one. That is a fire one. I like, what's that one? There's this one edit that Wow Mao had in his profile for a while. I'll probably never be able to find it. But it's like a video of Tristan Tate being like, you go to school, you're non-binary, you're gay. And then it switches to Bottom G, like shaking his ass. It was pretty fire. Tate is actually quite funny.
Pissed me off. When the Andrew Tate allegations came out, pissed me off. When people talk shit about Fresh, gets me mad. When people talk shit about Sneeko, etc. If you're my friend, you're my friend. I'm with you, regardless of whether it's convenient or not. You in the chat that say you're Byron, you're loyal to a fault. Shut the up. That does not exist in my vocabulary. Loyal to a fault.
Loyalty is a beautiful thing. Honestly, if you ask me, it can be better than love sometimes. ESTG put it best. We know Brutus loved Caesar. We know Judas loved Jesus. So if there's one silver lining, it's the fact that Myron does seem to be a loyal person, evident in the fact that he didn't trash Destiny at any point during his divorce with Melina. That could have been prime content for him, and everyone in his niche was talking about it. All of his fans wanted him to as well, but he just wouldn't do it. It seemed, at least in this case, he stood on his principles. But like I said, it's for the wrong people most of the time. And also, it's at the expense of everything, including his integrity, his morals, and even his dignity. He finally snapped as he recounted everything he's been through and the million.
In fairness, you could argue, is that out of some kind of like loyalty to him, or is that out of some sense of self-preservation, not wanting to piss off Destiny and get into a greater beef with him, or because he knows that maybe, you know, his relationships and his private stuff being exposed to the public would be bad, so he doesn't want to set that standard of that kind of stuff being talked about, right? Like, it could be multiple different things here.
Millions they've lost due to all their actions.
We've been through hell together. We had people come at us. We've had death threats at us. People laugh at every time we go through some people make allegations on us. People have tried to absolutely destroy.
Jesus Christ, dude, what the f?
You know who was around me the whole time? These guys. So you can say whatever the f you want to say. I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna stand by the guys that stand by me, because you pieces of shit are there when I'm going through it. You pieces of shit are there when.
Dude, this is like the train wreck speech. He's about to blow a gasket. This is like the train wreck speech. This is legendary.
I'm figuring out what the I'm gonna
do
because we got demonetized.
Yes!
You weren't there.
Yes!
Everyone in their mom came
they
out.
weren't there.
You weren't there. When I
you
got
weren't there.
Against me.
They weren't there.
When this lied and said that I got a.
But who was there?
Did it? And then you thought
Walter.
years later,
Walter.
The same allegations again. You. I'm not going anywhere. I'm standing right here.
He smashed that cup live. Damn near opened the 8th gate going on this rant, and it would almost be touching if we didn't have the back.
That is legendary. I like that speech. That was epic.
Turn on him that we do. Naturally, this was meme to oblivion. Abba and Preach used this for every subsequent intro in their videos.
Another day, another fresh and fit L.
Again!
At this point, they were a content farm for Abba and Preach and other commentary channels. Worse yet for them was that all the fans were still left with a bad taste in their mouth, because the main point of the video was to tell fans to shut up about the whole situation and that Myron holds Fresh accountable behind closed doors. Yeah, maybe, but there's very little evidence of that. People were noticing that. Add in the fact that one of their biggest points that the fans were saying is that Fresh doesn't take accountability. This led to many fans withdrawing their support. After this, Myron had a decision to make. Accept his faults and change the way he runs things, listen to his fans, and do right by the people who watch it, people who support him financially, people he's employing and whose livelihood and job security hangs in the balance, or continue down his path. Well, as predicted, he lived out Kanye's lyrics in Can't Tell Me Nothing. He felt the pressure under more scrutiny, and what did he do? He acted more stupid. They went live with a stream by the name of The End of Fresh and Fit, We Quit. This stream was the worst fan reception yet, topping the last stream somehow, some way. They started off stating how they provided so much content for free while demonetized because they love helping men so much. They spoke about how they're going against the Matrix, the Jews, the feminists, all the rest of that.
We want to go places where other podcasts are scared to go. We want to make content about things that other podcasts are scared to make. And obviously, when you make content on certain things before October 7th, right, you get, you know, you can go ahead and deal with some with some consequences for that, right?
They said all this to butter the fans up for the fact that they're going to be going behind a paywall for their after hours. You know, the only thing anyone comes to their channel to watch. They're doing this through what they call Castle Club, where for the low price of $35 a month, you can gain the value that Fresh and Fit always provides.
I haven't seen like anyone charge that much for a subscription. $35 a month? That's more expensive than Netflix. That's more expensive than HBO Max, where you get access to a ton of movies. That's more expensive than like almost any Patreon I've seen in terms of like the tier where you get all the content. $35 a month. Bad Bunny is rolling over in her grave, okay? You don't have $35? $35? Like, damn, dude. That's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. Interesting. I wonder how that worked out for them. I wonder if they had enough loyal fans that were willing to pay for that. I assume probably not. If I were them, the max I would have set that at is like 10. Like, I could kind of see people paying 10. Even 5, most people aren't going to pay for that because they just get a lot of free content on YouTube and online. Like, they'll go somewhere else. But 35 is a lot. That's a very high bar to be asking for your fans. I'm not even saying they're like scamming their fans or anything like that. I'm not even saying it's like they can't do that, but that's just like seems like bad business practice to me.
Needless to say, their fans were not having it. Not only have they turned their back against their core fan base, flip-flopped more than a politician during election year, blew up his own podcast for an ideology that hates him, and then placed the bill for the team at the feet of the viewers. If I was a podcast and I did all those things I just listed, my last option would be to do what FNF did, well then I'd have 0 option because I would never do that. There's just some things that are just too shameful. But of course, they did it and the result was horrible. The subreddit completely flipped. 99% of posts that are even about FNF are completely bashing FNF. At the time of this stream, 100% of them were. People were unsubscribing en masse, and no.
Is that still the case? Fresh and Fit subreddit. r/freshfitpod. Let's see. This subreddit's absolutely f***ing dead. What is this? Sigma Myron? What's going on? What's going on, big fella? No. Myron, no, you couldn't betray me like this. What's going on, dude? What's going on here? No, dude. Can you do the $5 in the Bane voice?
I was born in the darkness. $5. You don't have $5. If you're watching this stream right now and you don't have $5 to support me, what are you doing? You ungrateful fuck. You don't have $5, Batman? You don't have $5, Batman, do you, you brokey?
My father was a red pillar and based. One day, Mommy turns on a Destiny stream. Daddy doesn't like that. Not one bit.
No one felt bad for them. Worse yet, instead of saying, look guys, I'm sorry, this is my fault, and I'm coming to you guys in my time of need, don't feel obligated, and I understand the backlash. They insulted their
why so skibbity
own fans for not wanting to foot the bill that they had no part in accruing.
By the way, if you're a brokey in the chat, I'll call you a brokey just because you don't want to support. That's understandable. What I will say though is like when you see the value in the Castle Club, you're like, damn, you know what?
Yeah.
I need to be a part of that.
Your motivation pushed me to start.
When you see the value. When you see the value, chat, you guys just got to see the value. $35 a month. If you're charging $35 a month for one paywalled podcast, it better be the best fucking podcast of all time. You better be dropping some serious truth nukes there.
And grow my business. I appreciate you guys. That's what we're talking about, bro. No brokey. Shout out to you, C. Avery. Notice how the guys that make money don't complain about the Castle Club is the important.
The comments were all bad too. It's a mission to find even one favorable comment among the.
You have a right to pay all your content, but I'm just not going to pay money to see red pill content, which is maybe 50% interesting and thought-provoking and is an oversaturated niche anyway. I'm willing to bet I'm not in the minority on that. Like I'd pay a single dollar to hear Fresh's mumbling ass. Calling people brokies while begging for money is crazy. This one's good. I'd pay a single dollar to hear Fresh's mumbling ass.
Sea of negative ones. Up to this point, not one thing that Myron said he does or believes in has stayed consistent.
I don't need to make a cent off this podcast. I'm fine. My real estate will take care of me, so I can sit here and tell you, you. We need you guys to support us on Rumble. If you guys want us to keep making this content, I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna say what the I want to say.
We make it look easy, guys, but like we have people that work for us that legit have a need and depend on us.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for this current platform right now, they won't eat. Neither their kids.
He brings up the point that I have.
That is a tough position to be in, but the thing is also, like, you probably should have gotten Myron to consider that before he decided to go on completely unhinged rants that got the entire channel demonetized, right? Like, you could have foreseen that that would be the case if you're trying to support people behind the scenes. You could have foreseen that this would become an issue where you wouldn't be able to make ends meet anymore. Like, you know, you're the head of this ship. You got to be a responsible business owner and realize, like, okay, you want to say certain things. Unfortunately, in the modern world, there are consequences for that. And once again, I don't support censorship, but this is the thing you have to kind of foresee a little bit ahead of time. We know the kinds of things that YouTube is not cool with at this point. We know what these things are.
Have employees to take care of, as if we should care.
Like, if it was like a totally out of left field, like random one-time comment he made, okay, whatever, I get it. I would be super sympathetic. But like, you had to have known what was going to happen here.
That's your job, buddy, and employees should be upset with you, and you should be coming out of your pocket to pay them. Liquidate one of your houses you were bragging about earlier. I mean, he wouldn't take an employee saying, yeah, he can't come to work because I didn't plan for X, Y, and Z, so I'll be working less hours, and rightfully so. You have a job to do. No one cares why you can't do the job. You're either doing the job or you're not doing the job. Same way, the employees shouldn't accept, well, it cost you guys everything, and I stood to gain nothing, and I did gain nothing. Hope you guys understand. By this point, F&F just didn't care, like fully. They said, forget the facade, forget trying to help men. There's bills to be paid and money to be made. Full grift mode was activated.
If you're a member of Castle Club for the next few days up until Friday when we finish the show, you're going to be able to get in at only $3,500. However, if you don't and you're not a Castle Club member, it's going to be $39.95.
They sold quote-unquote yacht ticket for $4,000 and gave a discounted price for Castle Club members of $3,500. They promised refreshments, a grand beautiful yacht, networking, and lots of women. Even before the yacht party, this was terrible. Who was going to one of the...
Dude. This guy's actually a legend. This guy actually fucking rocks, dude. This guy's a boss. Average Fresh and Fit fan. Look at this young king. Look at this young shining king, dude. This guy's a boss. This is the guy that owns you, okay? You guys are broke. You guys are losers. You're in my chat crying about Fresh and Fit. This guy spent $4,000 to get on the Fresh and Fit yacht to hang out with them, all right? He fucking rocks. He's owning. He's owning you. Damn, boy, he thick. I like how there's like 25 people in this room. Although in fairness, I mean, if you get like, you know, at least 20 people to pay $4,000, pretty good payday. Pretty good payday for sure.
Yeah, I guess there are ladies, but it's segregated like Jim Crow except between genders. It was an abject disaster.
Segregated like Jim Crow except between genders. All right, buddy.
And thus, they had to do a second one. Again! And of course, it was just as bad. They lowered the price by $500, and the yacht that was supposed to be a huge, vast yacht that you'd have to pay way more to get into normally gets exposed to be a decommissioned state ferry. The same segregation was there in the next yacht party, too. I don't know how that could be. I mean, they had multiple high-value men, right?
Dude. Just like random girl twerking in the background. We're bringing the most based women of all time, just like random OnlyFans hoe twerking back there with her G-string riding up her fucking crack. Great, dude. Great. Let's go back.
Right there.
Rewind.
Not be excited to talk to them. It's truly a mystery to me.
Hey, ladies, you guys want to say what's up to the camera? Introduce yourselves. Apparently, you guys are from Czech Republic.
No, definitely not.
Networking was not consistent, but there sure was a lot of men dancing.
Dude. This sucks. I wish I could be there just to film it, man. Oh, man.
Well worth the 3.5K if you ask me.
Oh. I mean, I don't really like parties that much anyway, but dude, this looks crazy.
Me. They went on to do a damage control stream in which they controlled 0 damage, and in fact, Fresh, being as smart as the microphone he's speaking into, decides to say the reason the party was good was that he made a profit. Oh yeah, and he said this directly after Myron tried to say it wasn't about making money.
Aren't even indicative of what happened on the boat, and they're saying it flopped. We made a profit, to have fun, we went to the club afterwards,
and the goal wasn't to make a bunch of money. Yeah, and I told y'all that from the beginning.
We made a profit.
The goal wasn't to make a bunch of money? Why not? Why would you not want to make a bunch of money from it? How much does a boat like that cost to rent out for a day? Let's say you did actually rent out a yacht. Yacht rental for... Let me just look up yacht rental and see what we get. What are they charging? Look up yacht rental Miami. With a captain and crew. Okay, prices range from $5,000 to $30,000 a day. So, I mean, they could easily be making a pretty good profit off of that, right? With a full crew, too. I mean, even if they rent a pretty expensive one at 30 grand, right? Let's say they get 50 people to pay for that. I mean, that's $200,000, right? So, pretty good payday. So much money to hang out in a room full of other dudes that's interested in women. Dude, you don't get it. It's marketing, dude. It's fucking marketing. And they didn't even rent out a yacht. They rented a decommissioned ferry.
Profit. By this point, Fresh and Fit were done. The fans don't rock with them. The outside world never rock with them. The only option was to pivot, although it can hardly be called that. I saw a tweet that said, male influencers when money runs dry and it's time to pivot. And it's 100% true, especially in this case. The getting canceled to moving to the alt-right or right grift is something that deserves its own video and honestly needs to be studied. Like clockwork, it just so happens when someone's mad at the world or loses their platform or loses relevancy in general, they instantly become political, and of course, in one direction that instantly just so happens to believe the opposite of the current thing. But I'm sure it's all a coincidence. Anyways, this was a natural progression for FNF. I mean, they wanted to do this even before they were canceled. Did I say they? I meant Myron, because Fresh was not down for this at all. He was seeing a one-to-one correlation between Myron ramping up the racial rhetoric and the decrease the numbers in his bank account.
This is a crazy picture. This is a crazy graphic right here, dude. This is a legendary graphic. This is fire. After Effects fucking going hard, all right?
The one and only thing he cares about. The animosity was starting to bubble up in the background. This was seen in Fresh, who was at the beginning a punching bag who everyone made fun of, doing a complete 180 and actually trying to run the show at times and standing up to Myron.
Pointing out who's behind the scenes pulling strings, what does that do? Someone please tell me, what does that do?
I guess it just...
Other than make you a target.
No, 100%.
Getting fucked up.
100%.
What does that do for the public?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people probably didn't know that just now, and now they know.
What are they going to do
behind the
What are they going to do with it?
The COVID thing.
What are they going to do with it?
Education is important, bro.
To do what?
It's like a freshman. Not gonna have this discussion with you, bro.
I'm just saying.
You're always like, bro, why you scared?
Dude, Fresh is just like, why do we got to talk about the Jews, man? Can we talk about something else? Are you really benefiting anyone? Can we just not talk about that? Let's just talk about anything else. Who are you helping out? It's like, dude, I want to have this conversation with you. Come on. Let me talk about it. Let me talk about the Jews, man. Come on. We got a podcast to do.
No point calling out people.
All right, we'll go back to you.
You cannot
so
defeat.
Fresh can feel safe. Let's go. Let's just go back to you.
Oh, Andrew, am I correct or no?
What's the point to calling out people you cannot defeat? To make money!
I'm just drinking my coffee listening to this convo, bro.
I'm the only one. Common sense here, man. Yeah.
Making the good point of who cares about all these conspiracy theories. Albeit he did say because you can't defeat them, as if every messianic descendant is connected to each other through telepathy, or they're a monolith or something. Basically, he got to the right destination, but he took the wrong road. But it wasn't just him showing signs of animosity. It was Myron too, going as far as creating a whole new show with Sneeko, Elijah, and of course, their superhero, Nick. No Fresh to be seen. And we all know how much Myron likes yes men around him. But what happens if your yes man stops yes manning? Now, you have someone who's completely and utterly incompetent, who doesn't even do what you say. What's the point? It is truly a weird predicament these guys are in. On one hand, the podcast wouldn't be where it is without Myron's drive and his leadership. Fresh had exactly nothing to do with the rise, and in fact, he made it worse. While on the other hand, if he had listened to Fresh at least these points, they wouldn't be panicking and looking for a new shit to jump to. Both parties do have good reasons to be mad at the other. And by the way, Myron has not just dipped his toes into Caucasian supremacy, he took a full dive in. He was in their Twitter spaces.
I wonder if there's a world in which, I like these AI generated white people, by the way. I wonder if there's a world in which Myron had listened to Fresh, and instead of becoming more politically extreme, they somehow managed to like sanitize the podcast to become more of like a legacy podcast, which like fans would complain about it not being edgy anymore, obviously. But I wonder if there's some world where they just got bigger and bigger. I feel like probably not, just because the content they were existing off of in the first place was like, you know, red pill stuff. It probably would have been hard to transition into like becoming like a more, I don't know, wide-reaching person, like just doing like normal celebrity interviews. Like they wouldn't really want to associate with these guys even off the bat. But I wonder if there is some world where they could have done that.
And funnily enough, although he accepted them, they did not accept him. I'm probably going to do a video on this topic in general at a later time, so I won't touch on it too much right now. But man, is it funny to see what everyone knew to be true happen in real time. Like, buddy, they can't even get their definition of whiteness right. For some, if you're Italian, you're not white. For some, if you're mixed with anything that's not European,
Italians are not white. We've known this for a long time.
You're not white. You can look like the Aryan ideal itself and let them find out you have 1% Ashkenazi Jew in your blood. You've been a traitor the whole time. How much more denied are people like you and Candace Owens going to be? Very obviously just useful idiots for the time being. And it's honestly really funny. Please continue to go into these Twitter spaces. We all love it. But Fresh didn't share my sentiment, and neither did one of the back end people, Mo. You see, Mo is the punching bag of all punching bags. Genuinely a nice guy from all accounts, but seems to be really unsure of himself and lacking in confidence. Everyone who takes part in the show has stood up to Myron in some sort of fashion, even if they did it jokingly, with undertones of whatever you say, boss. But up until now, Mo hasn't. It all started when Myron was making jokes about the outright confirmed and uncontested by anyone credible lie that Haitians are eating dogs and cats en masse, sold by the 47th president of America.
They're eating cats and dogs.
Yeah. How consistent are you when it comes to false allegations and misinformation toward
He's actually calling him out. What the
countries that has been stolen off of? That's my question. We're on Twitch, so you know I gotta keep it up. But
stop it. Get some help.
Mo obviously took exception to that because he's from Haiti. All Myron did as a response to this was make jokes at his expense, play sound effects to troll him, and Mo was visibly annoyed. Myron, who has dealt with false allegations, claims that everything in your history book is a misinformation, yet can't just condemn this easy display of both right here. Obviously not. Guys like Myron only have a few set of values. Number one, the opposite of the current thing, conspiracies and pandering to my audience. But this rightfully bothered Mo, especially since he's Haitian. Myron didn't care and in fact went harder on him because, again, to Myron, the ultimate
This reminds me of like when Sneeko was like hanging out with all the super right-wing guys for a while. And then as soon as the Haitians eating the dogs and cats story came out, he was like, wait, you guys are slandering Haitians. This is racist. And it's like, did you just wake up? Do you remember the past like 4 years of your life? Like, what do you think is happening right now, dude? Where did you think you were? It's like going to a quinceañera and being surprised there's tacos. It's like, what? You guys eat fucking tacos? What? I thought you were Mexican. Yeah!
ultimate goal is complete submission to Myron. Any signs of dissent, whether justified, which they mostly are, or not, must be stomped out, whether on live like in Mo's case, or behind the scenes like in Allende's case. Inconsistency reached an all-time high at this moment for Mo. Not that it mattered to anyone genuinely watching FNF for advice at this point. They are watching to be pandered to, not for real information. Keep in mind, all the numbers in World War II are fake. All that documentation out the window. All the studies on racism and institutionalized racism. Yeah, it's all propaganda as well. Every singular conceivable conspiracy? Facts. Haitians eating dogs and cats? Facts. That's as true as it gets. Source? I made it up. Can you imagine debating someone if they sourced a Fresh and Fit video? Anyways, back to the point. Fresh also bit back, but he did so much more tactfully than Mo. I'm kind of eating my words here because Fresh is making a lot smarter actions than I thought he would. The reason Mo went wrong was because he was seeming hurt about it.
Sneeko had no problem being racist towards any other race. When it came to his, he started whining. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the way these people work ultimately, right? It's like racism is good and funny when it's profitable and cool for them. But then as soon as people go after them or make fun of them, it's like such a major concern, right? It's such a major, like, oh my God, guys, I'm splitting off. I have a major problem now. It's like, okay, well, good one, dude. Good one. This is a very good video. This guy is like, I feel like he's been watching this podcast clearly because he knows seemingly every single arc of the show.
That's like blood in the water to a bully like Myron. Also considering he was half in, half out with his confrontation, Myron ate him alive. Fresh, on the other hand, did it way differently. After either Myron or Fresh got them banned off Twitch, one of the last platforms that isn't Rumble that they can still monetize on, Myron had the audacity to utter a single word about Fresh possibly being the reason for the ban. Yes, men who lost the podcast most of their money, support, and potential growth is condemning Fresh for getting them a temporary ban on Twitch.
Could have been anything.
100% that's what it was.
You think so?
100% because you said,
yeah. I don't know, man. You said F streamers, these simps.
It's, I guarantee you it's
The thing is, whether or not they got banned for using that one particular word, they would have been banned anyway at some point from something that Myron said or talked about. Like, it was going to happen. But I will say that word seemingly, especially for these guys, will get you banned on Twitch pretty fast. Certain people, if they're more PC on Twitch and they're friends with some of the higher ups and staff, could get away with it maybe, but yeah.
Which went out
because simp isn't a hateful slur. It's,
let's find out.
I promise you, bro.
Let's find out.
I literally have. Wait, this is crazy. Is it Fresh that got us banned?
No. Nah, bro. Don't put it on me.
We ain't putting no.
Fresh was not having it whatsoever. In an act of complete lack of self-awareness, Myron utters the words, take accountability.
Take accountability. Bro, literally, it says.
Hold on. Yes, we got him. Listen, bro, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Controversial.
Yeah, no, of course.
Controversial. But, hey, listen. Something question in the chat. Hey, man, I kept it real. I kept it non-PC. We're going all the way.
If it was bullying,
we're crashing out.
If it's not bullying, I would have said, all right, it's
Everyone in the back was laughing because it was so rich coming from a guy who has never taken accountability for his actions one time on YouTube. Blames the Matrix, YouTube, feminists, the fans who don't want to buy Castle Club, and everyone in between for their downfall. Yet everyone, including the team, realizes it's Myron's own stubbornness and stupidity that leads to it. As you saw,
it's stubbornness, stupidity, and also ego. It's the belief that because things have been going so well for so long, nothing could ever possibly get you. And you don't realize how deep you are into your own ego until it bites you in the ass and it's too late. This is the case for so many people who are in their position. And, ultimately the people that, suffer the most from this outside of the fans who just watch the podcast, right? The people who really suffer are all the employees who get fucked over by this and probably get paid less now.
Fresh was saying things like, at least we aren't PC. To me, that seems to be a not so subtle dog whistle to the team. I'm 100% sure they've had talks without Myron discussing how dumb Myron's lean into politics and the alt-right has been. Like, we had at one time one of the most well-earning podcasts and a genuine...
I don't get this part. It probably was that word. You should take accountability. Okay, so the point, let's say it was hypothetically that word that got them banned off that, right? Part of the reason why Fresh and a lot of the audience is so frustrated by that is because Myron has caused all the other consequences to the show as far as getting banned and demonetized on all the other platforms. So it's like, how rich of him to talk about taking accountability, right? That's part of it.
win money machine, and we lost it for what? To stick it to the wokies? Well done, Myron. How about hit the nail on the head with this?
After you got us banned for the one thing that was making us the most amount of money, you're not gonna put me on this. After you did all that shit on YouTube, and I warned you. And he's right. And people laugh at Fresh. They say he's a dumb one or whatever it is. And in a lot of ways, he just really is useless. But he's not wrong about this. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. In this case, he's been telling him like, yo, why do you guys always got obsessed about talking about these Jews all the time and doing all this conspiracy stuff and bringing
he did that a couple
And Myron's like, I gotta keep it real. Gets him banned, doesn't apologize. You ask Myron to apologize, take care about it. I don't.
But people ask, Myron, do you regret getting demonetized? No, I don't.
And now he's trying to put on Fresh. That's crazy.
That has to be total cope, dude. That has to be total cope.
Myron was livid. He couldn't attack Fresh like he did with Mo Live because everyone in the comments already agreed. The whole studio had his back, unlike in most cases when they weren't.
Saying that once wouldn't f them up if Myron hadn't built up so much bad will. Yeah, exactly. Like Twitch at that point are looking for any excuse to ban these guys, right? The second they hear that happen, they're going to be like, all right, you're done forever, right? They're looking for a reason. They're like, please just give me a reason. And they gave it to them.
Fully defending him. So Myron, for once, had to just sit there and have a taste of his own medicine. And he wasn't happy about it, as these hypocritical bullies he usually are. Fresh continued to say the exact same thing Myron did when he originally lost them all their money.
Woo! These platforms, bro. YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We love Rumble, though. That's all we need. Next topic. Next topic, please.
But nothing can stop Myron's ego and pride, as well as his ambitions of being one of the good ones. So even after all this backlash and the majority of his fans saying, dude, we do not care about politics, Myron was in the background of all of this, continuing to get abused on Twitter Spaces, was going on more and more racist tirades until even Twitter, yes, the cesspool of the internet, the place where you can openly say slurs, besides cisgender, of course, come on, let's have some decorum. We have to draw a line somewhere. Blatantly and unapologetically spread misinformation. Putin's bot playground itself and the alleged free speech platform ended up demonetizing him. You know how bad you have to be for this to happen? This at first.
You got demonetized on Twitter? That is shocking. I feel like the only people I've seen get demonetized or get their check marks taken away are people who directly shit on Elon. I think Destiny, around the time of the Trump comments, he got demonetized on Twitter. Not very many people get that.
First was a genuine shock to me, but given the pattern of self-destruction that is Myron's legacy, I really have no reason to be shocked. At this point, the downfall had finally reached its end. FNF are clawing and grasping at any relevancy they can, only somewhat relevant on Rumble, but those are the same old people. No one new is scrolling through Rumble and seeing FNF talk about Bitcoin and clicking that. Their YouTube is a husk of what it was before, some videos getting as little as 6K views. Prior to this, you expect videos and clips to get upwards of 500K, depending on who's involved. This stream's not including girls, a measly 30K, 42K. Those would be great numbers for a channel like mine. But with 1.5 million subs, compared to their peak of 400K, 700K, 600K, it's a damn shame.
And that's not even that long ago, less than 2 years ago.
Would be if this wasn't so predictable. The downfall of Fresh and Fit was not only predictable, but completely unnecessary. They innovated on the YouTube platform, reviving YouTube channels and creating a whole economy around them in their videos. Even now, and this is before the critiques of them, I'm just talking people reacting to their kickouts. They actually had a mainstream relevancy, and their points got other people talking. And even now with the pop balloons or fine love trend, I'd wager that this idea had
Yeah, it feels like for a bit, Fresh and Fit was kind of inescapable. I remember a lot of people talking about Fresh and Fit. Obviously, a lot of them were like shitting on Fresh and Fit and making fun of them, even when they were less controversial than they are now. But they were such a mainstream name. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone on YouTube who doesn't know at least of Fresh and Fit or has heard of it and like knows a few offhand facts or like summaries about it, right? They got super, super big, super, super fast. And damn, burned bright like a star.
Its roots from Fresh and Fit and their podcast. They found a winning formula that worked. They cultivated a cult-like following, and they were
They stream multi-platform. Well, let's see how they're doing on Rumble. It's not going to be clear, everybody does this cope where it's like, oh, they're still on Rumble. There's no way they're getting the same viewership on Rumble that they were getting on YouTube. There's just no way. Rumble has way less people on it. So doing better on Rumble, 183K views. I don't know how much you can trust these alt platform analytics all the time, but that is good. That is better. But it's still not where they were. It's still not where they used to be, right? They used to be getting 500K views minimum on a live stream VOD. Now they're getting 183 on YouTube, 183 on Rumble, maybe 200 on Rumble, max, plus another 100 on YouTube. That's obviously a huge audience hit. What's also weird to me is like, why is it that this has, at least according to the analytics, let's see, this one 183,000 views. Why does it have not even 2,000 likes? How many comments? 543. I mean, that's not a terrible ratio, but it's still pretty low compared to YouTube. Do a lot of people just not make accounts on Rumble? Black women are disgusting. Great, dude. It's a shame the Taliban are better with females than Western men are. Jesus. All right. Definitely down a bit of a cesspool over here, chat. A little bit of a cesspool over there.
some of the first to really address issues that men were facing. Although it has since evolved, originally it was a lot more palatable. What I'm trying to say is this: had a good thing going, but of course all good things must come to an end. And this end was a disgraceful one, not because of Abba and Preach or any false allegations / true allegations, and definitely not because of the goddamn Matrix. It's because of Myron. Although he was the engine that carried the podcast, he was also the person who derailed it. Think about it. At every turn, Myron doubled and tripled down on things just to feed his ego and pride. He sacrificed his podcast, his livelihood, his fans, his business, his relationships, and legacy at the altar of his own ego. He allied himself with scam artists like the Saint and the Sinner, Donovan Sharp, Wes Watson, and more. Abba and Preach made upwards of 55 videos on these guys since their initial beef, and they were instrumental in their downfall, no doubt. But it's like striking a match. The fire wouldn't have spread if Fresh and Fit hadn't already doused themselves with gasoline. And Abba and Preach also consistently broke the rule of never correcting your enemy when they're messing up with most of their videos. It literally tell Fresh and Fit what they're doing wrong, why it's wrong, and what it's gonna lead to. Hell, before they got demonetized, Abba and Preach warned them. After every subsequent video, there was a chance to change. After every subsequent
But seemingly out of spite, they just refuse to change their behavior. Out of pure stubbornness and spite and hatred for the people who are coming after them, they decided to not change their behavior. And it cost them in the end. It cost them brutally.
It was a chance to introspect. That leads us to the biggest catalyst of the downfall, and that's pride. Myron would rather blow up his entire podcast and be called nigger on Twitter Spaces than admit he's wrong. So what's next for FNet? Well, they'll always have their relevancy in their own little corner of the internet. But anything now they do or any big waves they make will just be their final death throes. It's like a sinking ship. Everyone on the team is starting to realize this now. The red pill as a whole is dying. So it really is no wonder why this is taking place. As for my personal predictions, I think FNF will continue to lean into the alt-right as a pivot, continue to lose support, and Myron will continue to double down. As for the rest of the team, I think they're all going to stay on board for as long as it benefits them, but I expect a lot more public displays of animosity.
Even the alt-right stuff, like political movements like that, will kind of ebb and flow with time, right? Like the alternative right got pretty big with like the Richard Spencer kind of Wake Nat stuff, kind of died a little bit, got kind of big again with the Nick Fuentes America First stuff, kind of died a little bit, kind of came back. Like these movements are always kind of coming and going. Extremist parties are always coming and going and changing shape because they usually eat themselves alive. So, you know, this is you're not always necessarily going to have that install base of people to watch your stuff as long as you're reaffirming their political opinions.
Myron is no longer the guy who took them to the promised land. So now they're a little more okay with snapping back at the bully. So I think that'll be fun to see at the very least. And of course, Abba and Preach will probably continue to make bank laughing at this downfall. Maybe Abba will buy his mom another condo. Who knows? Anyways, thanks for watching this video. And if you made it...
That was a really well done video. Shout out to Don Ozzy for making such a great video. The thing that I like about it is the amount of clips being used. You know, a big problem I have with a lot of commentary channels is they refuse to use clips to contextualize things and show what they're talking about. This guy had a clip for basically everything relevant that he was talking about, and it was also a pretty funny video. So that was a good video to Don Ozzy. Good job, dude. Good fucking job. Very well done. Very well done. Watch the Saint and the Sinner one. Not right now, but I could at some point in the future. But yeah, that was a good video. Subscribe to that guy. That was really well done. Good editing, good narration, good commentary. Didn't agree with every single thing he said, but you know, you don't need to appreciate the video. It was good. It was straight up a good video, dude. Good. Segregated like Jim Crow except for gender. Yeah, that was a banger, dude. That was a good one. That was a good one. Looks like he's got a lot of other interesting videos here too. Wes Watson, Rollo Tomasi, the Indian Andrew Tate. A lot of interesting stuff going on here. Low Tier God. Obviously, we know all about him. Dan Clancy, interesting 7 days ago. Kind of missed the boat on that one. Got it a little late, but I get it. I've been late with topics before. John Zerka. Yeah, good vid, buddy. Good vid. Was he shitting on ABBA in the end? I didn't get that vibe at all. I didn't get that impression. I think he said it was cool that they were able to make money shitting on Fresh and Fit, and he hopes that, I can't remember if he said ABBA or Preach, but one of them bought their mom a condo.
Bitch, I'm Tom Dart, but my dick is quite light. And this girl that's on my dick, she is not quite white. She's black. You can twist it up and play with it. Whoa. Make a motherfucking movie, Michael Bay with it. Whoa. Gonna promise you not dealing with a baby dick. No. There's a big white cop in your radius.